Yeah.
Have we ever talked about how you pick out an outfit being colorblind?
It's really unique.
How does that work?
I just kind of grab things and hold them next to each other because then I can see the contrast better.
Yeah, but I mean, you still have colors that don't match, right?
Yeah. It's sometimes difficult. That's why I always throw it out there. If you ever see a photo of mine that's edited really poorly, you just be like, yeah, that's because Brady
Omar did it?
Yeah, Omar did it. That's
Because I'm colorblind.
Do you, when you were a little kid, did your mom like hang your outfits on a hanger like together so they matched?
For a while, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's
Midwest nice.
Yeah.
let's refresh my memory here. What is your color blindness? It's green and red only?
red, green, yeah. So like blood
And it's all
on grass.
shades of red and green?
Yeah, but like people always like ask them like, oh, can you see stoplights? Like, yeah, I can see stoplights because the colors are separated out. But when they're right next to each other, like certain shades, yeah, it's impossible. Like
what's the main shades? Like the darker shades or the lighter shades that you can't see?
More darker shades.
That's what I would figure. Like the darker it got, it would be
Yeah,
harder.
like those little colorblind things we can do on the internet. We get all those different circles and you look for the number in between there.
Yeah.
I can pass a few of those, but I'll like fail like 12 of the 14 or whatever of them.
Holy
like
shit.
I can't see the colors inside of those.
And
I'm like squinting,
So
like
blood trail
holding it
is
away,
just not
close
good.
up.
That dark red, just not good.
No, that's why I hunt in the snow with the rifle.
Christmas
Perfect.
must suck.
then it kind of looks more red.
Yeah, he's just looking at a bunch of the same colored lights.
Yeah.
Stupid Christmas. Anyway.
Can you see the blood on your ram's face? Can you see that?
No. So actually, my girlfriend the other day, she saw, obviously when we first started dating, she saw, she's like, dude, there's a lot of blood on there. I'm like, no, there's not. I edited the blood out. Like,
oh, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a sick picture though.
I know. It's a Marco Polo on my phone.
But I like
cool.
the blood on it. It's cool. It's like, I think it adds to the
There's
picture.
a lot of blood on there?
I was just wondering if
there's
you
a lot
see
of blood on there. Lots.
Yeah, I can't see that at all. It looks gray to me. Like it looks, I can't zoom in on it.
Just like a sick black and white photo.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think it looks awesome with the blood.
Mm-hmm. I just can't see any of that.
There you go.
Like I thought I did a good job, but obviously.
Like, do you know what color your girlfriend's eyes are?
Yeah, of course I can tell colors like that. It's like when they're by themselves, but like
Hey,
that's hard.
I saw baby girl.
You did?
You met her?
Saw her on FaceTime.
Oh, that's right. I've seen her on
You're
FaceTime
creeping
too.
behind my phone, and
I saw her.
she thought that someone was looking. She's like, "Oh, I wonder if Lorenzo peeked
saw
over."
her. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I had to see
Where was
baby
you
girl.
FaceTiming her? In the office?
In the
Airport.
airport is when I saw it.
You peeked around?
Yeah, just, I needed to check and see if the warlock was real.
The warlock was real.
She does seem really nice.
She did. She was very
Cordial.
into like, you can just see twinkle in people's eyes, like when they're genuinely happy. I could tell she was genuinely happy looking at Brady. I could see it. I could see it.
Well,
She had that little like sparkle in her eye when they were going back and forth on FaceTime.
Yeah, I like that.
I haven't met her, but I'm a huge fan of her because ever since they started dating, Brady's vibes are
Very high.
up into the
Very high vibes.
I was fishing today at lunch because I was like, when did you guys start dating? And he told me February 28th,
29th,
29th.
leap day.
which means she hasn't actually been through a hunting season yet.
Well, bear season.
This will be good. This will be good.
How are you feeling about that? Nervous?
No.
Have you prying the pump? Hey, I might be out for a while.
Yeah. I mean, we can do a scouting trip together and, maybe not crazy backcountry like I would want to do, but something fun.
No, I'm not
enjoyable.
taking her. I mean, just like setting her up for like expectations.
It's a great,
like, hey,
great question.
I'm probably going to be gone for a very long time in the fall.
I mean, the one downside was I was planning on this year being the first year in history of my life that I did not go on a hunt over Thanksgiving because me and my family didn't draw our deer tags that was go on.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother turns around and draws the best rifle elk tag in a certain western state, and it's over Thanksgiving. So now they're like, that plan.
Any concern that before you get to that hunt, she's going to be like, do you really got to go? It's not your tag.
No, she's awesome. She's amazing.
Which,
honestly, best girl in the world.
That's a good thing that happened to you. Because this isn't a thing to be mean to them. This isn't however you want to see it negatively. This is just genuinely truth. Like you need to hunt the way you're going to hunt the rest of your life in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So because some people go about it the other way and it's like you're kind of lying to them. You know what I mean? Like you're setting yourself up for failure and them up for failure because if you do take off at Thanksgiving, then they're going to think like, oh, you don't hunt every Thanksgiving when you're going to want to, right? So it's like the advice that I'd gotten before as well is like, I know you're going to want to shelf it a little bit just because you do genuinely want to spend time, but should probably hunt the most like the first couple years. Just, you know what I mean?
Set a precedent.
So
Good
there,
advice.
and you could look at it as setting a precedent. Yes, trail. Or
Just call a spade a spade.
or
dive right in.
you could use it as like this is, I'm not lying to you, like this is how it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, she's seen, obviously I've been gone a lot this summer already at all the events, you know, I've been going to, and I'm trying to cut back a little bit on some of the other events I'm going to in the summer because summer's so short.
Don't cut him back, because then she'll know.
Go hard.
Precedent's trail.
Go hard in the paint.
But I enjoy hanging out, so
It's hard. It is. It's difficult. It's very hard.
What about you, Porter? You guys were married for a while before you started hunting.
Yeah, we were married.
Any kind of transition there for her? She hate it? Like it?
She does not hate it. I strategically spread them out. Like the back-to-back. So last year, at that elk tag, I was gone like 9 straight days. And I could tell, like, when I get home from that, I'm in like penalty box for like a week. where it's
Penalty box.
just like, I'm getting the cold shoulder. Just
It is interesting though, because you did pick it up post long marriage.
Oh, yeah.
And like, granted, everyone's different. Everyone's relationship is different. You guys had yours in the beginning, but like the way we hunt, it probably wouldn't fly because you guys were never.
Yes.
You guys never had that in your life.
I give up though, like basically all golf, like things like that. I've given up. So I stockpile my like family PTO with the wife.
My family
Can't do it all.
PTO.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I try to do the best. Lorenzo does the same thing where you're like try to be super dad, especially in the summer. Really just getting some goodwill built up, and then you burn it in the fall. But I totally agree with Lorenzo. Like all seriousness, like. Because in your voice, you sound like you're tiptoeing around it. I'm just being honest with you a little bit. Like, just, she's dating Bradley Miller. Like, Bradley J. Miller.
You gotta let her know
She
it's not a lie.
She definitely did her research. I was very impressed. She figured out who I was ahead of time before even our first date.
Okay.
It's
Maybe
not
what we ought
like
to
in
do
the
is-
future. It's not you trying to get away or like any. It's just this is what it is.
You
This is how you hunt.
You didn't come home from the bear hunt early because baby girl wanted to see you, did you?
No.
Okay.
Maybe what you ought to have her do is just we all sit down with her with you outside.
Yeah.
Well,
it
I
was
mean,
talk
eventually you
right
guys are going to have to
We'll just lay it out for her.
meet her.
That's a good idea.
there. Actually, we should get her on the
That would
podcast
be
with no
pretty
Brady.
funny.
No one heard you because you didn't get the mic that we talked about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Cody, our producer, had a good idea of. Okay.
But if you're listening, we got a special guest today,
Who's been requested
that?
quite a few times.
Chris Porter,
No.
The Christopher Porter.
the Christopher Porter, Muzzy King. What
Hey,
else?
Undy King,
Try to bring it back.
Andy King. What
Logistics
The
King.
hair of Bradley
Logistics
Cooper.
King.
Logistics King.
Yeah, so we've had you on
Slick
underwear.
back hair king.
He's got the best hair in the
Yeah.
office now,
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
He does.
worst hair in my opinion.
Boot King.
but
Lorenzo
best
told
hair.
me I was the Boot King.
Boot King,
No.
Andy King, Muzzy King, and the Logistics King, which is why we had you here today.
Talk to me.
Yeah, we want to lean into your expertise on planning and scouting.
I don't know about expertise.
Because today, this is going to drop on July 4th.
Okay.
So happy birthday, America. Do you guys
Happy
have
birthday,
anything
America.
patriotic you want to say?
Oh, man.
No?
God, family, and country.
Okay.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to Scott's his retirement ceremony at Nellis
Scott Butler,
tomorrow.
shout out.
Yeah, Scotty. 20 years of service.
Dang, that's
Air
impressive.
Force. He's flying the F-16 around, doing a loop. His family's going to be there. I'm actually bringing my kids.
That's
gonna
awesome.
land.
They call it the Finney flight.
Oh, really?
And
It's going to be hard for him. I
Chris
bet.
and I were talking
Yeah,
about
right.
this earlier. It's like you think about it, right? So you compare it to something where your life is forever different the day you retire. So the closest thing I can think about is football. Like the last time you run through the tunnel, the last time you're in the locker room, the last time all that stuff.
Yep.
But like I told Porter, the day you're done playing football, you still are you and are recognized as the football player. Like Tom Brady walks out of football, he's forever Tom Brady. Like people,
It's your identity.
know. Yeah, it's his identity. Somebody like Scott, he will leave flying F-16s, which there will be nothing comparable to flying an F-16 for the rest of his life, just like Tom Brady running out of the tunnel. But nobody knew or knows that he flew F-16, so he doesn't even have the accolade of walking into a room and being like, oh, you're the best pilot that's ever existed in an F-16. Like people won't know that. So not only does he lose, or not lose, but like retire from flying an F-16, it's also like the life he's ever known is just completely gone that day. That's a hard
I can
It's a
imagine.
rough one.
Like that
He's
final flight.
struggling with it.
I can imagine the final flight's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
He's one of the greatest pilots to ever be in an F-16.
Yeah,
And nobody will ever know.
Yeah, I mean, we did the SIG games, ARC games. We were across the alley. The next tent across from us was all 3 former military vets. I told you guys, I said on another podcast, like those guys are so cool. And the more often I'm around those types of people, I'm just so extremely thankful. But they're badasses like that.
Yeah, like those guys.
Yeah, and when you're
thank
around
you.
them, you're just like, okay, this is a different breed of human. Like
Yeah.
this is a different thing, and I'll never be that.
But goddamn, am I
But my
thankful.
hell, am
Very,
I
very
glad
thankful.
that those people exist, so that my dumb ass can do whatever it is that I do.
Their job is to protect us.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And
So,
and it's the only life Scott's ever known. And
Yeah.
Thursday, it's
And he's done all kinds of classified stuff that he can't even
Yeah.
tell his immediate family about. And
yeah.
so
like,
he
what do
can't
you do
even get the
after flying an
glory.
F-16 to get that
Adrenaline.
that adrenaline back?
Hunt elk.
Like, what do you
Hunt
do?
elk, yeah.
Yeah,
He
hunt
did
elk.
say
And
that.
He's like literally, so we're getting him a bow for his retirement.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Decked out Matthews.
Can I set it up?
Yeah,
but,
that's what we're
that.
gonna do.
Thank you
Getting
for
ready.
volunteering. We were asking you.
We're basically printing out a picture of a bow so
Okay.
we can get them
That'd
dialed.
be so sick.
And
I
we'll
would,
set it up.
I would love that.
He's
yeah.
gonna love it.
Yeah.
It'd
I wonder if Scott knows how much we like him.
I try to
We
tell
do.
him. I
We
try
we,
to
all,
tell him.
we all sit around and talk about him all the
Well,
time.
he loves you guys. Like
Good dude.
he appreciates it so much.
Super cool guy.
So you brought up 4th of July.
Yeah.
So like that was American
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I brought it up. So I don't know anything to say about just freaking America.
Thank you.
Greatest country
Appreciate it.
ever.
Just thank you.
Yeah, it's like it's one of my very favorite holidays, to be honest. Like
the best.
it's just like it's a complete vibe, and it's a good time to reflect and just like think about the good graces that we all have to live here in this country.
Yeah.
It's funny, like I am not an emotional person. Like I won't tear up. I mean, most horrendous things ever, I won't tear up. But the only thing I will get teary eyed is the national anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird, a little bit weird for me,
Yeah.
But if being completely honest, like that's the only time I ever like feel emotionally like.
I got
"Oh."
our earlier podcast. We talked about luck and the definition of luck. Do you feel lucky to be an American? Because
Yeah.
that was not by purpose.
There's a
That was
prime
not by
example.
action.
Yeah, you're right.
So that is luck.
Yeah,
That is
incredibly.
luck.
Yep.
Again,
Yeah.
Great
that is
point.
the definition of luck is being
Yeah.
born here as a citizen, but by no action of our own.
Man, that's a great point.
So that's luck right there.
You
And
might
I
just-
feel so goddamn lucky to be
yeah.
born here.
Yeah, you might have just hit the nail on the head.
And
That's a luck one.
How many people are on planet Earth? Like 8 billion or something?
I think, 8 billion
6
or
billion
something.
or something?
And we're
There's
330 million.
Yeah, and we beat the odds of just being-
only 190 million adults.
190 of
Yeah, 8
call it
billion.
6
That is
billion or
crazy.
something,
Yeah.
7 billion.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, we
8.1 billion. Damn,
we
it's growing
beat the.
fast.
It's like drawing a sheep tag, just getting born in America.
Yeah.
Pretty-
all
pretty-
do
some
feedback, so
lucky
Pretty,
odds.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get emotional about that. Like the stroke of luck on that one. Being
as do
born
I.
here.
We need a little bit more of that humbleness. Like people right now,
Yeah.
we're a little soft.
It
We
would
need
be
to
really nice to
appreciate
see
what
some
the hell we
appreciation.
have.
Yeah, on the bigger scale. That would be nice.
four. There you go.
4.23%. That's crazy.
That is wild.
like
It's
drawing a
really
elk tag.
wild.
Dang. Yeah, it puts it in perspective when you live in the realm that we do.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're gonna talk. We're gonna dive in, and we're gonna talk. Like it's July 4th. Like that first week of July is really kind of the kickoff for all of us. Like getting out into the mountains and doing the thing that we love, which is scouting, and like in preparation for our hunts coming the fall. And like for me, one of the greatest blessings that I feel is like that ability to do so. Like public lands, public resource. I get to chase my dreams. I get to pursue this passion that I really feel deeply. So yeah, we're gonna kind of tie that in.
And
but
it's interesting. July 4th sets up to like that is when scouting truly starts
It
because
is.
that's when you can tell what an animal is. It's
For sure.
it's wild how it lines up like that for us hunters. But like July 4th is the going date of like, okay, now if I go out there and scout, I'm going to be able to tell if it's a good buck or not,
Yeah.
or a good bull or not.
Yeah, every year usually we go to like a
It's the start.
local parade, but that morning before the parade, like
Scout.
5:30 a.m. to 8,
Yeah.
I'm out looking at deer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that kickoff to scouting season. And I've talked to people the last week or so, and they're like, "Hey, I've been out looking. Do you think this looks like a good buck?" It's like it's hard right now. Like that
Super
last week
hard.
of June, kind of middle of June, it's really tough. You might look at a buck or a bull and be like, "Yeah, I think he's got something," but it's really hard to tell. But once you move into that first 2 weeks of July
You know.
you're
they frame
you're
out.
set
Yeah.
up. Yep. So we're gonna do a deep dive. We're gonna talk scouting. I guess before we go on, we should hit promo codes. So you guys can use the promo code podcast if you want to sign up for a GoHunt Insider account. We're going to give you $50 back into the GoHunt gear shop. You can use that towards the purchase of any gear that you want in the shop. There's a ton of new gear that's coming in the shop, including, I looked, the GoHunt Legendary tee, which is kind of a, patriotic theme tee, 4th of July t-shirt. We've got, actually, I was looking through the new gear. I thought it was interesting. One of the new things that I saw, I was like, oh, I don't know we had that, but it's a plantar fasciitis recovery kit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There you go.
I didn't know
Yeah,
about that.
I mean,
Jared was telling me about that.
yeah, kind of an anomaly. I wouldn't have expected that. Like, that wasn't from my gear recommendation, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like some little hidden treasures, little hidden gems in the GoHunt gear shop.
Speaking of, what are you wearing right now?
Yeah, I've got a merino. So last podcast I had the
I
long
called it out
sleeve
on the
crew.
last podcast, just like
Yeah,
that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
just
Well,
like that.
I really.
Yeah.
Is it?
Give it a-
Be
give it a-
honest.
we-
Why does it feel so soft?
We have been
Soft as
working.
like
It's me.
pajamas.
We have been working. Kevin, I say we as a team, but Kevin has been working extremely hard to find, because I am not a merino person, and most of us in here aren't. Like Trail, me,
Little
Trail,
bit.
you're a little bit of a guy. I genuinely just don't like it. What's your feelings on it?
Yeah, up until this last year, I tried that new piece from Sitka merino top, and I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I've gone away completely from merino. I used to
Yeah.
be diehard merino. I think we all were at that one stage, and
But
then
man,
man,
it's just-
transitioning back to synthetic.
It's just not the best on your skin, and
No.
it bothers me.
Performance
so anyways,
of it is good,
We've
but
been
Doesn't
Kevin-
stink.
Yeah.
Kevin has been bringing some of the best merino he can find around everywhere. He can back channel all this stuff, and I think we found the one. This is the one that Kevin has poured his blood, sweat, and tears into to try and get delivered for us, and it feels pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's a merino nylon. It's got a little bit of spandex in it,
perfect
so it's got
blend.
some stretch to it,
It's a
which is kind of
blend,
nice. Yeah. Feels like it's not gonna.
Get the performance of the merino, but not all the downsides of merino.
Yeah, it feels like it'll wear a little better. Feels
Yeah.
like it'd be better if it snags and stuff. Normally
Exactly.
merino
Won't stink as bad like a
pill.
wet dog.
Yeah.
It'll be nicer on the skin. Won't flare up like my skin. My sensitive skin won't flare it up, or it shouldn't.
I got mine now though, but you can get yours in August.
Yeah.
I'm running that thing. Do we have a couple prototypes, or you literally got two?
I think we have
One
two.
hooded and
Yeah, we
one-
have
Two right now. We have a
Yeah.
long sleeve crew and a hoodie quarter zip. So yeah,
But
even-
August,
He better put a rush on that.
you'll have it in August.
Yeah, I think we're gonna call it the Basin.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, but you like that?
Yeah, I do like
that is a
it.
good
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
You?
And then, as you can tell, we all like the approach hats, the approach camo hats, I should say. You guys are in the Stratus, and
Dude, we have that
I'm the
new.
Softy
What's
2.0.
have you seen the Diamond Peak hat yet though?
I don't think I have.
I have
that's
that
one
prototype
Porter's
on
been
that
wearing.
one.
Oh,
It's a
really?
good
It's in my
looking hat.
backpack. I'll go get it. It thing's sweet. You got to see it before
Yeah.
you leave.
You can't put a hat on, over that head of hair though.
No, he got hair like that. Come on now.
I wore a hat yesterday.
Yeah.
I'd like to do every other.
We're gonna talk a bunch about maps because I think maps is a key component to scouting. I did want to let people know, just like a little bit of a leak. You guys should pretty soon be able to, maybe like the second week of July, new feature within your mobile map app. You should be able to share waypoints, icons, colors, tracks, lines with friends and family, anybody that you're kind of keeping on track with. You're networking offline
Yeah, via Bluetooth.
via Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Which is important. I mean, obviously, when you're in hunting camp, it's like you always want to share something, tell somebody to go somewhere, and not a lot of the times we have service.
Yeah, there's nothing like driving to McDonald's and Eagle to
To download each other.
sit down with your
stuff.
buddy. Yeah, nothing like going 2.5 hours out of your way just to be able to
Send
swap
somebody some
waypoints.
data. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that would have saved when we were scouting last week, and that would have saved us a lot of time.
Yeah.
You start pulling up their map, and you're like right here, and you're dropping it on theirs for them.
So offline sharing, pretty cool.
Yeah. Coming soon. Yeah, I missed anything? SIG.
Sig.
SIG. We
We
should
love
thank SIG.
SIG,
SIG is
obviously.
a sponsor. Yeah. SIG. Super cool bunch of people over there and just God, I was thinking yesterday, is there a company right now that you know of? I mean, there's a few, but like they are kicking ass.
They're kicking ass.
Beyond kicking ass. Like truly changing things though. They're not just like putting shit out to say that they have it. They're truly changing the way we go about using gear and hunting. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see. And when
Yeah.
do their new Zulus come out?
I don't know a date, but they're pretty dope.
We
They're pretty
I
cool.
got to
Glasses
use them
better,
during the ARC competition, and they are really sweet.
The glasses look pretty
Noticeably
clear.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know how much we can say, but they're pretty sick. They're pretty
Well, we
good. I
said
got to look
something.
at them in Alaska.
We can
and play,
bleep out.
play with them.
But just know
Yeah, just
they're
know.
awesome.
They're rad. So yeah, thanks to Sig. I guess with that, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Boom. Porter,
Yes.
give us the goods.
Yeah, he just got back from a
just
little
got back.
scouting trip.
I have kind of a format here, but before I dive into it, I'd be interested as the planning king, the logistics guy. Like, what's your process? You've got boots on the ground already, which I think is the first for any of us. You drew a great tag. Have we talked about that? Yeah.
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 Well, I was on a couple
Okay.
days ago, I think.
So you drew a great tag. So for you,
Phenomenal tag.
what's your first steps? What's the go-to?
Start planning. Okay, so first of all, earlier you said like expert something. I'm definitely not nearly an expert of your guys' level.
No, I said
Planning and
to plan.
logistics. Honestly, planning and logistics you are
Okay.
though. Because I would say
way better than me.
me too. Because I
You're-
take a lot of things for granted, and I would imagine Trail does too. Not to speak for him, but
Okay.
Brady as well. Like we've all done it so much. You are very logistically sound.
You're infinitely better than I am.
Okay.
No lie. I think in a marketing meeting yesterday, we were talking maps, and they were like, "What do you think, Trail?" I was like, I don't know. I tend to like drop a waypoint to a trailhead and then just like
That's
go
been-
figure it
figure
out,
it
yeah.
out
kind of
from
figure
there.
it. Yeah, kind of figure it out. So I'm not the best. So
That would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I like to plan like everything in my life. I am a planner, and I think it's important when you're hunting because you have limited time to have a plan, whether you're scouting or going on your hunt, whatever. Having a plan. Early on when I first started hunting, like I didn't have enough plans. I would have like a plan A and B and think I was like dialed, and I was on plan C by day 2. Right? And
You've
I'm
blown
like,
through A and B.
like it's crazy how like you go there and you're like, oh, there's a dozen hunters. There's pressure. Got to go to plan B. Plan B is it's too low. They're higher. And then it's like, oh shoot, now what? You know. And so I've learned to have a lot of plans, and I do like the logistics of it. I do think like compared to like a Brady, I'm way less technical, right? So maybe that's more relatable for some of the audience. I don't know, but I'm no maps expert at all, but I do like to have a plan. So when I drew the tag, I said I'm gonna really commit to the first 10 days of muzzleloader season, but I'm going to. I love getting in the field. That's like part of like the reward with scouting. So I'm like, well, I'm going to be in the field in August scouting. I might as well have a bow in my hand. So I did commit to learning how to shoot a bow.
Which trail you missed out? He did shoot a bow yesterday
You did?
in the warehouse.
after this, we're gonna go shoot a bow.
Okay.
I
I brought
ran
mine.
them.
It's right there.
I ran them
Oh,
through.
I got arrows in the- I got arrows in the
session.
truck.
Is that what it's called? A session?
Yeah,
it
it
called?
could be a session.
Okay, well, sure.
Yeah.
I ran them through
We're gonna
the
go shoot.
first.
Yeah, we can do that.
I ran them through the first points of being able to shoot a bow.
It was really good. He actually was giving good instruction. I was sitting 30, 40 yards behind when this was
Like, 'cause
going
you were
on
scared
because I
or
didn't
what?
know what was going to go on with Papa P here.
Uh-huh.
So I was a little nervous.
Before I move on, what was it like?
I loved it.
You did?
Yeah.
I told you would.
I didn't know. So the only reason I've always known I'm going to eventually get into archery, but I was like, it takes a whole nother level of commitment time wise that I'm just not ready to do. But I loved it. So like
Nothing like a tag like this to force the timeline.
First time you'd ever shot a compound bow.
no.
You've shot.
I mean, the
Like,
first time
real.
you've pulled a bow back and let an arrow go. But
a
yesterday
couple
was
times
the first
here and
time.
there. Yeah, yesterday was
Absolutely,
for sure.
the first time I had him focus on like being able to execute
Yeah.
a
Yes.
compound bow shot.
First
shot
level of
25
actual
times.
instruction.
Yeah,
You shot 25 arrows?
Yeah, he started making me do it with my eyes closed.
Oh, yeah.
we were trying to
Doing that
skip a
whole-
few steps.
Just get the feel for it.
He's
I
like,
told
don't
him-
aim. And I'm like, how do I not aim?
and I
it's
said,
hard.
close your damn eyes.
Yeah.
Just listen to what I'm saying. Quit doing. Close your eyes.
It's kind.
So I had him shoot like 25 shots with his eyes closed, finding the anchor release.
My biggest piece of advice is kind of what we would do all the time with rifle stuff. You got like I dialed your gun at 100. You start shooting 100. Instantly, you wanted to like jump back and do what we're doing all the time and go further. With archery, I think you need to be
Way more.
close, like that close blank bailing like you're doing, shooting with your eyes closed. Do the fundamentals first, and then step back and start having some fun.
Yeah.
You're going to want to jump to 40, 50
Yep.
yards and shoot some
Well, he
targets.
kept wanting to go further.
Yeah, but just stay close, stay
Competitive.
dialed.
That's weird. I would have never thought
I
that.
kept telling him, I said, Porter, if you can draw anchor and release an arrow the exact same way every single time. You could shoot 100 just as easily as you'll shoot 20.
It all starts
It's
up close.
It's right there. That's it.
Some parallels with golf for sure. It's
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
I'm
can
sure.
if you can just repeat the actions over and over.
You'd probably be good at it. You're good at golf, right?
Yeah, decent, but we'll see.
I mean, if you can break a perfect arrow at 6 inches every single time, you can shoot 100 yards.
Yeah, that's the same thing. People get out to further distances and they tend to over aim and
Yeah.
take things just mentally. They go to a space where they've built it up in their mind. This is 100 yards, so I have to be that much more precise. When in reality, it's the exact same. Whether
the
you're
exact same
whether
shot.
you're 4 foot or 100 yards, your shot timing should be the same. Easier said than done, but everything should be equal. It should just be across the board, 1 yard to 100.
Yeah.
100%.
Hard to do. But
So I made him close his eyes so he would stand at 6 inches and
Yeah.
not keep wanting to go
Yeah.
back.
So I have 6 weeks or whatever, 7 weeks. So I figure I'm not going to be a pro by then, but if I commit to shooting in our warehouse, like, 3 days a week, maybe more,
5 days a week.
5 days a week, then the goal would be like being comfortable at 50 yards, probably like with the idea of sitting water. So like, I'm trying to stay realistic, but if I have a big buck on one of these cams, I don't want to have to wait till September for muzzleloader season.
yeah.
So
And then you'll get hooked on bow hunting.
And you'll be less.
I hope.
You'll be less than 50 if you're sitting water.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
which would
then
be nice.
then it's even better.
Yeah.
So
Let me go back. So I want to go back to scouting. The way I kind of broke it out.
is it hot in here, Cody, or is it just the grilling?
I don't think it's hard.
Is
I'm
it?
gonna
Okay.
wrap Brady into this here in a minute, Lorenzo too. This is the nice thing about being in my spot. I get to kind of like just throw
No,
throw
no,
questions.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
So I would kind of break it out as step one is like you draw a tag for a species. You
Yep.
drew a mule deer tag. You've got an elk tag. You've got an oryx tag.
Yeah, but that one's a more passive. The elk one, I'm like very much in scouting, planning.
Elk. Brady, we know he loves mule deer. How much time and effort do you put in? And I would say step one is like behavioral, understanding the animal. You're not new to hunting anymore. You're old hat. But like, how much in the beginning did you put into actually just like understanding the animal? And do you think it's like important? All of you, you think it's important?
The animal?
Yeah, like understanding life history, like behavior of the animal that you're pursuing.
For me, it was like not as broad as that, but the next level deep. It was like, okay, well, with my tag, I can hunt multiple units, but spreading yourself too thin is where you hear a lot of horror stories of people chasing too many like units and trying to spread themselves thin. So early on, I was like, I'm going to commit to this unit, which is a good unit, and I'm just going to put all my time and energy into that for at least the first 2 months. And then if I haven't killed by like muzzleloader season, then maybe I'll look for some other options, but I want to really focus
On that unit.
on that unit and not spread, right? So that was point one. And it's a particular style of hunting, more like desert style that I haven't done a ton of. So then it's like, okay, I know mule deer, but I don't know mule deer in the desert. And what's their behavior? And then I haven't hunted them with a bow before. So of course they should be a lot more active during archery, right? In the velvet, not as much pressure, but you have to get closer, right? So, and I've never ran cameras.
Right.
So I was like, very early on, I'm like, I'm going to focus on this area. I'm going to run cameras and try to get like an inventory of deer, which is like a whole new style I've never done before. And then I was like looking for intel. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on the unit profiles, see if there's any members that have like commented, anyone I can like reach out to. The good news in some of these, like the more premium stuff is people are willing to share. Like the OTC stuff, people are usually more protective because they do it year in and year out. They want to protect their spots, but you run into people like, oh yeah, I drew a tag in there 5 years ago. Yeah, this is how my hunt went down. And then you just start like hearing from like 3 or 4 different people, their perspective, and you see the similarities, and then you start drawing like some assumptions off of those, or getting like glassy knobs and this and that. And so then I started just plotting. And then are we getting into planning?
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
I'll bring it back around.
Yeah,
Stop for a second. Please keep that mic like so everybody has their mic in front of their face.
I can't hear you because you don't have a mic.
No, you're doing good. But the one thing that you did say, which I was hoping you would say, is these are a different style of deer. Like
It is,
not
totally.
These Nevada style bucks, like we don't get a lot of opportunity to hunt them because it's hard to draw those units in Nevada, and they are a very different behavioral species of deer. They're a different deer.
So
to Trail's question, you have done a lot of research in the behavior of these deer. I've heard you talking to anyone and everyone that has any experience with hunting these desert bucks. You've been asking them through and through, like, how do they act? What's the difference? Why? How are they different? What are they doing? I've heard you do it, and they are different. So the animal behavior, I think, is a hugely important first step, and that goes, what season of the tag do you have? Because that's going to be dependent, and then also, like, are you hunting desert? You hunting high country? You hunting middle ground? Like, it's all hugely important to the behavior of the animal.
That's
and it's
exactly
a great
right.
place to start.
And everybody I talk to is like, once they strip, they act different, which is really why I'm trying to go hard early. That's why I'm picking up a bow, and then I'm going to go hard on muzzleloader, because they start going into like desert ghosts and they disappear. Like, it's not impossible, but it's
desert bucks.
Yeah,
When they
and
strip, it's a totally different world.
and it's crazy because it's going to be super hot, but then they're going to be hitting water a little bit more. They're going to be in their summer coats, and so there's some advantages. Ironically, like, some of these spots, I actually think they might be more active, even though it's going to be 95 degrees out, more active on a August 15th morning than they might be on a October 15th morning.
Yeah, they haven't been hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a different animal.
And they're in a
summer.
different coat, and they're in a different mode, right?
And they're trying to put on body weight prior to the rut.
Yeah.
So these are like all little tidbits. I don't know that like people necessarily think about. The thing that got me thinking about it was like, if you think about elk, you think about antelope and deer, which is kind of like the bread and butter for all of us out west, right? Like, if you draw any other tag, great, that's awesome. It's, most of us aren't going to, but like those three species, deer, elk, and antelope, like, are there chinks, quote unquote chinks in their armor in regards to their behavior that you can utilize to help you find them? See what I'm saying? You brought them up. Brady, mule deer? What do you think? Is there something about a mule deer, time of year?
Yeah, well, we're just talking about biology stuff and animal behavior. This is where I think, I always say it in every single seminar I go to, all this stuff is rooted in science. And so I want to learn from people who have studied these animals their whole entire life, like day in and day out. I could listen to someone talk about a big buck hunt story all day long, and maybe you could pick up a little tip or tactic, but really, is that going to help you in your exact area? Maybe not. Because it's just a hunting story, where I would rather read biology reports. Peer studied biology papers, animal behavior. This is what they do during the time of year. This is the temperatures they go down in bed at. This is how much water a mule deer buck needs to consume every single day. So you can use that to your advantage to break down that little armor. So I read books all the time.
Nerd alert.
Yeah. And I get the question about books all the time. And so I did write down 4 of my favorite books.
Yeah, which
that I
is
can
going to be
talk
a
about.
follow-up question I had is, what are the best resources for you?
Yeah, so I think, obviously, I have an article on GoHunt about how to utilize Google Scholar. You can basically break down about
Google Scholar. That really is
Nerd
nerd
alert.
alert
Yeah.
right there.
there's normal Google and there's Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is where you can
Google
research-
for smart people.
Yeah, you can research all
I'm guessing
the
Google owns it.
yeah. You can research all these peer-reviewed journals. So you can be like mule deer behavior or mule deer telemetry studies or all sorts of like
my
mule
God.
deer habitats, like what they feed on all the time. You can search that predator-prey relationships, like all this stuff you can research and get these papers that are sometimes they're locked behind paywall and you have to pay for them. Other times you can access them through Google Scholar itself or go to university websites to break it down in that article how to do it.
Honestly, phenomenal little tip.
I
there.
had
Like,
never
phenomenal.
heard of that
But
in my life.
Google Scholar,
That
I
makes
probably use
me-
Google Scholar more than I use normal Google.
That like makes me glaze over a little bit to think about that.
Yeah, and you
know
can-
what I
you
mean?
can probably
But it's
type in, like,
honestly
mule deer
probably
behavior,
something-
Colorado.
You
something-
also have 20 plus years of like hunting. It's like you've looked at it real world. So you're like, I mean, to you it's kind of
it's
baked into your, who you are right now at this point.
true. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
So once Porter gets
But
done,
Brady is very
Nerdy.
Well, you said it, but no, but like he's very methodical in
Oh,
life
for
as he
sure.
approaches stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
So-
and I
Which is
agree
good.
with
We
you.
need to have that perspective.
I
So I
agree
think
with
there's
you.
so much hidden gems because I always talk about like edge habitat. Like when I'm scouting, like there is a certain thing about edge habitat between the forest edge and the open country where all that green vegetation is and where you're going to find animals. There's so much good information out there about how you can find them, even hunting your desert stuff. Like the 4 books right now I have written down. We all know Jim Heffelfinger,
Yep.
legend.
Coolest last name.
Man, we
ever.
could use that guy on our SIG team. Have you guys seen him shoot?
Yeah,
No.
he's a stud.
Is he good?
Yeah.
Oh, man. He's an
I don't even know
assassin
who
with a
is this guy.
handgun.
So he
Oh, there's my spot
Seriously.
right there. He's taking my spot.
So he came out with a book, I can't remember what it was, 2 or 3 years ago, Ecology and Management of Black-tailed and Mule Deer of North America. And basically, I'll call it like the Bible of mule deer. All these different reports, studies, everything you need to know. There's even some things about like when cold weather, how that impacts animals with a certain temperature. They're gonna have to get up and move more, they have to feed more. All that stuff I'm then thinking in my head. I'm highlighting everything, marking down. I have sticky notes everywhere in that book of all these little tidbits that I can use then as a hunter. And the second book that's really good that Porter could probably
What was the
read.
first one? They got is that an audio book? Do you know if that's available? I'm just looking on my Audible app real quick.
It's one of those ones where you have to literally ecology and management of black-tailed and mule deer of North America. That's the first book. And so you definitely need to have the right mindset to sit down and read it because it's like you're reading a textbook. It's like you're going back to college.
Bro, how
like
about
it's not
some of
something.
those blacktail in the bow rack? There was 2 blacktail in there. I want to hunt those.
Yeah, first one for the right.
Oh,
And then
Man.
his second book that he wrote that I really love as well is called Deer of the Southwest. So that's a good one. It also is
sounds right up your alley,
Yeah,
Porter.
it's about desert bucks. He does a lot of stuff about desert bucks in Arizona.
Okay.
But you can use some of that and maybe extrapolate it over to your hunt. The third book, which I think is, in my mind, I considered it a follow-up to the ecology and management of blacktail. This one's just called Mule Deer and Blacktail Deer of North America. It's from University of Nebraska. It's a bunch of different studies compiled together. Really good book, solid information. And another book I've read a bunch of times is called Mule Deer, A Handbook for Utah Hunters and Landowners by Dennis Austin. And I've read that book cover to cover, highlighted it. I have so many notes in that book. It's really good about mule deer, like what they eat on a normal basis, all these different studies they try to do, what, forb and all this different stuff, late season, early season, how a mule deer lives throughout all these different terrains.
Are any of these none of these are by John Phillips?
No.
John Phillips is the only audiobook coming up.
I'm not an audiobook guy. I've never listened to an audiobook, so I can't
we
help
can
you there.
what I can do is have Brady read these to you.
Can
Little
he?
bedtime
That's what I'll
stories
do.
every
Yeah,
night?
little
I
bedtime
promise you
stories.
there's a good chunk of our audience that are going to have a hard time reading a textbook for deer, but
For sure.
just want to make sure it's...
Trail, we need to find these on elk.
There actually is a really good
There
elk
are
one.
good-
It's always out of print.
yeah,
I
there's
can't
some
remember
good
what
ones.
it's actually called, but it's a thick, really thick book. I have the same one for antelope as well. But I love this style of preparing for a hunt, learning about that species end to end, so you know the animal just as well as they know themselves.
What
Because
is it
that's gonna
about?
put you in a good
Like,
position.
what is it about mule deer though what is their behavior that makes them susceptible to you being able to find them? Is it that they water every day? Is it like, if you're scouting in the summer, like where would you expect to find mule deer, and why?
I mean, in the summer, I'm not really focused on the deserts. A lot of it's gonna be different, but like they're gonna be out in the open because their velvet is fragile. Like they're gonna want to avoid timber and stuff like that. So they're a lot easier to see. Their coats are really susceptible to being able to glass them up because they just shine really easily.
Yep.
They're crunching down those groceries. You basically, like everyone always says, they're chasing the green wave of vegetation. So anytime you find the vegetation they like, it's that same thing where I'm not exactly the person that gonna say, oh yeah, mule deer love this and this, and that's what it looks like out there. But
Mule deer are tougher
yeah,
because you can hunt a big buck from the bottom of the valley to the top of the
Top to top.
mountain in July. Like you
Yeah,
can
they can go all
find
over
them
the place.
low and high and everywhere in between.
And that's what's interesting about them is you got to scout everything and look at everything. But again, it's like I said on the seminar, like if I'm seeing a bunch of bucks consuming certain vegetation type and I'm honing it in right there, maybe I don't see a giant buck, but a lot of deer on there. Maybe I'm not going to blow into that exact same area. Maybe I'll walk through it later on. But when I walk through, I'm going to take a picture of the vegetation. And like I talked about before, you have that little tip on your iPhone. You can tap on the photos, that little like eye with a star around it. When you're on cell network, you can tap on that. It's going to tell you exactly what vegetation type that is. Then you can see what it looks like visually with your eyes, figure out what it looks like with your binoculars. Then maybe you can key in like, hey, this same vegetation type is over here as well. I'm going to try to key in that, try to maybe look over there, see if there's bucks as well, see what the proximity is to cover and security, so those deer have that. They don't need to water every single day, and then sometimes in the high country because they get a lot of water from vegetation.
Yeah.
Your hunts will be a little bit differently, so you're going to start keying in those water sources, but maybe figuring out what's the vegetation type they like. Is it the vegetation type near that water, or some of these tanks you probably put water or cameras on might not have any deer because there's just not the food.
As a general rule, down low, we really pay attention to water. Up higher, they're going to have a lot more water, but they seem to be out in the open in their summer coats.
Open in the summer, yeah. And that's why even like we'll talk later probably. Like I like scouting in the
not so much
summer.
in the desert. That's not so much in the desert. That's the case.
No, in the high country though.
High country, yeah.
They're real active.
Yeah.
They're out in the open.
Yeah.
That's the benefit
Yeah.
early, right?
So
they
like
get a-
to Trail's point though, like ungulates in July, August, no pressure. They're not being hunted. Their velvet is fragile. They're not going to want to hit it and mess it up. So they are a lot more in the open. And that allows you, when they are more out in the open and you can actually see them, it allows you to visually check what their home range is.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of showing you actively what their home range is.
And-
so when
and
the hunt does come around,
Just
you
so
kind
much
of know
hard,
the
it's
area.
so much easier to find them in the velvet, right?
That's kind of their cheat
That's the
in the
reason I
armor.
started bow hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the frustration of going out rifle hunting and just like seeing a buck here while we're, here or there. And then being out in July when I worked for the Forest Service, I was seeing deer all over the place. I was like, man, there's bucks all over the place. I'm
Yeah.
seeing them from my four-wheeler, I'm like, where are these deer come October?
Yeah.
It's just because the summer, they're so much easier to, to find and see. They're just a lot less pressured, and just that time of year, their behavior is such that they're just a lot more relaxed. And I was like, man, I should start bow hunting. I can find
And
deer.
they're showing you their home range.
Yeah,
in the
they are.
summer. They're showing you like, hey, I'm here. This is what I use.
For sure.
They're going to be generally in the same area until pre-rut, until staging, things like
Yeah.
that. They're going to be in the same area.
And then,
Yeah.
then
They
big-
just act so different.
Wildly different. The first time they feel pressure, like I think that's an immediate behavioral change too. The first time they feel pressure, I think they switch it on.
Remember
That's
that buck?
that's anecdotal from experience, but
Remember that buck we were hunting? You were helping me like years ago when I got lucky and drew that muzzleloader tag. Velvet, we were seeing him
Every day.
every morning, same time, same
Yeah.
chaining. It was like clockwork.
Yeah.
And then he strips, and then he
It was completely different.
Remember, I
And
burned
he-
like
we had
I burned like
pressure on him too.
That's true. We put a little pressure on him, but for 6 days we sat in the same spot after seeing him for 10 straight
And
days,
nothing.
and then he just disappears.
another benefit of that summer scouting, though, is seeing those little bachelor groups. They're going
Yeah.
to be more grouped
Yeah,
up.
who's
Yeah.
with who?
And then-
Who's buddies?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
also fit the buddy thing's the big thing because then later on,
Buddy
he's like, oh, I
system.
saw these two other bucks. I
Buddy
saw the
system.
3-point. I saw the
Yeah.
4x3. Haven't seen my big buck,
Yeah.
but he's got to be here somewhere. Maybe
He's
I need
gonna
a
be
different
close.
vantage point.
They're
He's gonna
rarely
be close.
solo, right? In velvet,
They,
rarely
they,
solo.
they have their little social groups. They'll break off. The
They'll
mature
break off.
deer will break off and go spend a couple days by themselves. But the social groups, it is a structure. So like
you might notice a pattern.
you're gonna if you see
I'll say
them
the biggest bucks I've ever killed have always had one smaller buck with
2-point
them.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one that was going to get
A
you.
3-point,
Yeah.
both times. The two biggest
Where
bucks.
he's obviously top dog,
Yeah, and then he's got a little
guy.
lookout.
little buddy.
He's like, hey, you let me know
Yeah.
if there's anything around. Other than that, I'm gonna be over here feeding.
Yeah.
And then you throw up the red flag.
Yeah.
But
It's typically, and those structures will stay through like archery, muzzleloader ish. And yeah, you can kind of like, oh, I see him, but where's the one I want? Within the days that you're hunting, they should link back up.
yeah, there's just certain things about certain animals. Like for antelope, I talked to a guy the other day and he's got an antelope tag and he's like, where do I start looking? I'm like, well, identify the big open areas in your unit.
Yeah.
Find the water.
Yeah.
Because it's hot and dry, pretty typical in antelope country. There's very limited water sources, and like we've got right now, I mean, it's hot and dry. They're going
Yeah.
to be hitting water every single day. And,
And
for me,
most of the water sources in antelope country have been piped by a farmer.
a lot of them.
A lot
a lot
of
of
them
them
have
are
been
stock
agged into something.
ponds,
Yep.
windmill tanks.
So they don't have running creek type water because it's all been
Yeah.
piped to a
And
trick
don't
tank or
antelope need
something.
a lot more water than deer?
They'll water every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically when it's hot. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like, I mean, we're talking a lot here, but like these are all like little tidbits about animal behavior that you can use to your advantage to help you find animals. So, I mean, for me, antelope, I've got an antelope tag in my pocket. The first thing I do is label every single water source in the unit and I just start picking them off one by one. I just cruise out there, stop at the windmill with the water tank, throw up the glass the surrounding 2-3 miles. Also, antelope, I mean, their whole safety mechanism to keep them safe is their eyesight. So they like those big open areas where they can see a ton of country and they're going to come into water every day. So just hit those water sources. Elk, I mean, I think about elk. Elk, again, big animal. They're going to water every single day.
And they're going to eat.
They're going to
Like they're
eat.
going to eat.
Yeah.
That's what they do, man. They feed like crazy.
So there's just like those certain things, and then like you can kind of extrapolate that out as you move like towards later in the season. So, I mean, if you're talking about bull elk rutting, right? You're talking about like where they like to bed, the expenditure of body heat to keep a group of cows. It's significant, right? And especially if it's hot, so they're going to look for those shady bedding spots. Knowing that elk like to bed on slopes that are less than 20 degrees. So anywhere in that window from 0 to 20 degrees, knowing that that's their preferred bedding habitat on a shady slope where they can consume and like save that body heat. Like those kinds of little things are just like little pieces of the puzzle that if you don't know, it might just seem like you might just go out there and walk around with no
Yeah.
idea.
My little tidbit over the years is if you have a rut archery elk tag, you should be looking for cows right now. Don't even look for bulls. If you're finding
Great tip.
bulls right now, you're in the wrong spot. You
Yep.
need to be looking for cows.
Unless it opens in August and you've got
And
maybe a
correct,
week.
Correct.
But again, that's the behavior.
You're right. If it opens early, you're entirely right. But like my hunt it opens September 15th and goes through the 24th. That's the tag I have in New Mexico. I'm not going to have boots on the ground experience, but if I was able to, I'm looking only for cows.
Yeah.
If I'm finding bulls, I'm in the wrong spot.
You guys had really good tips for me when I drew my Nevada late season elk tag. And I was like, I want to scout, I want to get in the field, I want to get to know the unit. And you're like, go in August when they're in their summer pattern, because if you go during their rut,
They're
your
gonna be all
intel is
over
going to
the
be
place.
all off.
Yeah.
And it was 100% right. So I did all my scouting in August.
And
figured
they'll
out
come back to,
exactly.
at post-rut,
And
they'll go back to where they were in August.
They go all over the
typically.
place to rut, and
Yeah.
then they tend to go back
Back
yeah,
to their
so,
summer.
And that was pretty spot on.
Before we jump too far ahead, I want to jump on what Trail's point was earlier, talking about elk and what they need and the slope angle. Like that's
Big
what-
elk guy now.
No, but that's what.
Love that.
He's a big elk guy.
No,
I feel like he's slightly turning.
no.
We catch glimpses that he's
Yeah,
turning. He
that-
just refuses to admit.
That is what.
No.
No.
The terrain tool.
Yeah, terrain analysis tools
Yeah.
built for.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing for
Yeah,
that.
you can use the terrain analysis tool for all sorts of different ways to go about your e-scouting process in the computer. But once you start knowing animal behavior, that's where it also becomes a play, because you can just turn on those different aspects: north, south, east, west, and then you can turn on that 0 to 20 degrees and figure out, okay, where are these animals potentially going to be at? North facing slope, 20 degrees. Start highlighting certain areas. Maybe then turn on GOHUNT's topographic layer, because you want to try to find those benches on the north facing slope where normally some of those wallows on some of those little benches and some of the little water seeps. So then you can start to try to figure out, okay, this is where I'm going to go.
Or even early, if you have an archery earlier tag like August for deer or elk, the saddles. Finding
Yeah.
saddles with the topo map is
Yeah.
hugely important.
But animal biology, again, getting back to it, is so key to your e-scouting efforts before you put your boots on the ground, because you don't want to be running around aimlessly. Now you have a good plan going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so much when it comes to like animal behavior and biology, I'm thinking things like food, water, cover. What do they prefer and why? Understanding why it is that that animal would choose what it is that they choose. And then transitionary time frame. So, we talked about a little bit, but like, if you have an elk tag that opens up in August, you've got about a week.
Yep. If you
To
find
hunt-
them now,
Yeah,
right
if-
now, you got
yep.
about a week in that
Yeah,
spot.
if that hunt opens up like August 17th, I think it is in Utah this year, you've got about to the end of September or the 1st of September maybe to hunt that bull where you found him in the summer. After that, you just never know. And I mean, I love to tell this story. It's like real heartache for me. I scouted a bull for 18 days in the summer. I had a tag on a unit in Utah. I saw that bull every time. 18 days. In the summer, 18 different days, I saw that same bull. I saw him one time.
During the rut.
One time on the first day of the hunt, the opening
Really?
day of the hunt. I never saw that bull again.
So he left
He
that day.
boogied.
Yeah.
Yep.
He staged pre-rut.
Yep.
He left.
Yep. He boogied. I mean, he was just gone. I could not turn that bull up again. But I know a lot of people ask, like, when's the best time to kill a big bull? I think if you're 1st of September, if you can find him, and you've got a little hunk of time before he starts to move towards cow groups, and that's when that becomes important. Is once they move into the rut, is knowing where those cow calf herds are. But you got to know that like that first week of September, that's a transitionary period for bulls. Like they're on the go. So like
Yeah.
those little tidbits, just like knowing seasonality.
Yeah.
Same thing for a mule deer. You might have through
Until
what
they strip, right? Like that's
I
kind
mean,
of the.
yeah, I would say like maybe even like the first week of October.
Yeah.
Like I like that last week of September, first week of October. They're pretty good about retaining home range. But that you move into like the second week of October, it's a different animal.
Totally
Yeah.
different animal that
Yeah.
time of year.
Yeah.
And that's why most states have their rifle hunts during that time, because it's tough to hunt them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those kinds of things are like super important, I think. I'm with Brady. Just like learn as much as you possibly can about behavior, food, water, cover, what they prefer and
Yeah.
why. And then just transitions. Why are they doing what they're doing on any given
Yeah.
time of year? And then relate that back to the permit that you have in your pocket and the timing.
And then with antelope too, like some of these antelope tags go into the rut. One of the things I've noticed about hunting a lot of antelope is if you are hunting the rut, like if you go and find a big buck before, and then your tag doesn't open until sometime in September or October or whatever. If you're hunting and seeing a lot of bucks and a lot of does, you're in the wrong spot. Those big bucks, just like a big bull, will take some does and peel off and go into some little tucked away. They do not like the riffraff, just like a big bull or a big buck. They do not like the riffraff of all the noise around them. So it's like if you find him early and you can't find him out there where he used to be with all the other antelope, he's peeled off a couple does. He's in a pocket somewhere. Probably not real far away, but like he's in a pocket somewhere.
Yeah.
Wants privacy to do his thing.
He just doesn't want the little shitheads. He doesn't want the little shitheads coming in and stealing. Like antelope, even though they're weird and can't really predict them, they do have some similarities to elk and deer like that. Like those big, mature bucks, they're going to peel them off and go tuck away. They're not going to be out there with...
They've been hunted before.
They're not going to be out there with the 50 other bucks that are trying to get some. You know?
The other thing with antelope, right?
They're going to go take care of business.
Don't you really want to be there on opening morning if you really can?
I mean...
Don't they act so different after they've been shot for a weekend?
It's just the age
Oh,
old,
with a
like,
rifle for sure.
World
Yeah,
War
not
III.
archery.
Yeah, archery,
Right?
they're pretty chill,
Yeah.
but you get in the rifle hunt.
And they're just so in the open. So, like, you know, those big bucks, maybe they are tucked away, but they're still going to hear the 30 gunshots opening morning because most people will shoot the very first good buck they see, right? Who's got black on their head and cutters above the ears. Like, he's getting killed. 90% of the tag holders, right? But if you're out there looking for the one, yeah, I mean, he's going to be skittish as hell because he just listened to 30 gunshots in the first 10 minutes of the hunt.
He's probably been shot at too and missed.
And probably been shot at on the run from a
Yeah,
lawn
I've
chair in Utah.
only shot one antelope with a rifle. Yeah. Yeah, one antelope with a rifle, and that was an entirely different experience than I have bow hunting.
Yeah, bow hunting, they're pretty...
I was like, this
pretty
became
good.
infinitely harder just to sneak up to get within, like 300 yards. I was blowing.
Their eyesight in the open is good.
Well,
Yeah,
watching your
8
truck
power.
come from
You
5
start
miles
to do
away.
a little sneak up on them. Even I had them 500 yards away. They start to see you do this.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're gone. Archery, they're fun in archery because they are very predictable.
love that.
Love that. Love the predictability.
I was going to move kind of next step for me, and I think this probably varies between different people. I'd be interested in hearing your takes. I think Brady may have a different take on this. Porter, you may as well.
I know
Lorenzo,
where you're going.
you as well. You do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, my next step, I kind of know the behavior. I might want to do some research, especially if I don't know the animal. Second step for me is like typically just like a Google search. And I'm looking for like forums, threads. I'm going to the unit profile within your Insider platform. I'm reading all the comments to like, oh, hey, I hunted here and, saw elk there and yada, yada. I'm looking at like biologist work completion reports. So there are some states like Wyoming, Nevada does a great job. They put these work completion reports where they kind of include a bunch of different information about the units, range transects, all kinds of information about the feed and habitat. So I'm looking at those. Networking, so making phone calls, biologists. So that's kind of my next step and what I do. But is that what you guys do? Or do you skip that step and go straight to your Go Hunt maps?
No, I 100% do that step. I don't know. I know you're more private.
I'm more private.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a little bit before. I've never called a biologist or anyone from a state to ask them about it.
call me all
You're
the
just
time.
being stubborn.
I feel bad. I don't like being bugged all the time either. So I know they have a real job and are doing other things that are
Yeah, it's
other
to answer
really
questions
It's
about
part
where
of
should
their
I hunt.
job.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to bug this guy, and I don't want to get the same information you've given 20 other people, and feel like then I have to is that real info? I have to read between the lines on it? Obviously, I want to have my homework done ahead of time before we call a biologist. And then to speak to that, we do have a lot of content on Go Hunt. We talk about what questions you should ask a biologist, all the work you should do ahead before you try to contact someone. Instead of like, hey, I drew this sick tag. Give me all the information you want. Well, you don't even know about the unit yet. You probably shouldn't be calling a biologist.
Porter, what's your opinion on putting it out there publicly? Like, hey, I drew this tag for this unit. You do a little Instagram post. Sick, I drew this tag. Here's the snapshot of my successful result with the unit.
That's how I met him.
What's the thought?
That's how you met him?
That's how I met Lorenzo. Yeah.
Good move, bad move. What do you think?
posted on Instagram and then Lorenzo DM'd you?
Followed me. When this was before DMs, way back in the day. He commented on it. We started talking about the unit I drew, and then sent me his email address and said, "Let's take this offline."
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunters are willing to share way more than I ever would have realized. And there's different levels of sharing. Some, like on a premium tag, a lot of times you'll get, if you're a good person and you're good to them and you meet a good guy, a lot of times there's like really open, genuine sharing. Other times it might be like, hey, this road's closure, just be aware. Like on the map, it says it's pretty good, but there was a mudslide there two years ago. That's like incredibly valuable because that road might be what you're counting on to access this entire basin or whatever, right? So like I am huge on intel, talking to the community of hunters, your network. Hey, do you have anyone that's drawn this? Like I don't publicly put it out there. Like I won't put it on Instagram, but I definitely hit up the unit profiles. Like that is such a secret little weapon. Or like hit up, for us in the showroom. There's like a lot of Nevada hunters here. It's just like. I definitely put it out to like my network that I drew it and see if things come back. And it's not like it's not like, hey, what's your secret spot? It's just like, hey, any general tips? Like how would you approach it? A lot of times you'll have a unit that's good for or a tag that's good for like 3 units, and it's like, hey, any suggestions on like focusing on this one versus this one? And like a lot of times people will share like good information. I'm huge on that.
You do that?
So I am definitely into the unit profiles, the comments below the unit profiles, because no one's sharing anything secret there. But a lot of the times there's some access stuff. And, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, if anybody draws this tag, just let me know.
Yep.
And I've gone about it that way. The biologist thing, I've only called a biologist one time. And that's when I drew the desert sheep tag in New Mexico. And we've talked, like Brady said, we've talked about this and done articles on it before, but anytime you're asking for information, you want to be as respectful as possible. So like when I went to the biologist, when I finally called him, I had done a ton of pre-scouting. I had done a ton of research. I had already e-scouted, had all these areas. So when I called him, I was prepared to talk about peaks and mountain ranges. And hey, here's where I was going to start. Here's where I'm going to camp. I was going to work this ridge. I was going to go here if I find sheep or whatever. And his information is what led me to kill my ram, right? I was out there DIY, me and a buddy. I've told the story before, never met him before, only through Instagram we talked. Nobody would go on the hunt with me. This is pre-GOHUNT. And so I had I didn't have Brady, I didn't have trail, no one. So I got a friend of mine on Instagram. We had only talked through Instagram. Invited him. We went out there, and the biologist's information is why I killed the ram, and I killed a phenomenal ram. I killed the book ram, which was incredible. Now, that's the only time I've ever done that, as opposed to like with these deer and elk tags, I usually go through the network, like Porter's talking about. Now, I will say though, I could do a much better job. Like last year, my New Mexico elk tag, I was so focused on Omar's that I did zero networking for my tag. And when I showed up, like it showed. I did as much e-scouting as I could. I did as much preparation as I could myself, but I never reached out to a network or profiles or any of that stuff. And when I got there and plan A, B, and C were already wiped out in the first day and a half, like I knew I could have done a lot more work.
Yeah.
You touched on something so important, which is like be respectful.
Yeah, when you're asking
don't be a prick.
And you don't just outright
that's
say.
the thing. Whether you're dealing with a biologist or another hunter,
no matter what,
it's a give and take.
Yes,
absolutely.
You give, you'll get back in return.
And here's the thing, like
yes, 100%.
With Porter asking somebody, he's dealing with he can hunt any unit in Nevada, any unit with any open season. So obviously he's going to go to the premier units first. I mean, why the hell would you not, right? But when he goes to somebody and asks for information, he's going to them with his plan already. Hey, I have cameras on these springs. This is where I'm going to camp. This is where I'm going to focus during the 10 days of muzzleloader. Because when he's asking some of the network we have, which, we're Nevada based, right? So we have some amazing network here. But when he's talking to a guy who is a pro there and has secret spots, if Porter says something to him and he's like, oh, that's my spot in my mind, Porter already found it. So he's going to be more willing to share and be more respectful of the fact that Porter put in the work to even find that spot in the first place. And then he's going to be like, that's a good spot. I killed a buck out of there last year, 2 years ago, right? It's like, it's that respect, give and take of not just, hey, give me all your spots.
Yeah.
Or like I can tell there's certain people holding back certain intel. Well, they hunt it more, like, or one might be a guide or whatever. So you can tell they're holding back a little bit. But like it'll be like, there'll be like the zone of the unit, and they might be like, hey, yeah, a lot of that's water's dried up. I don't love that. I wouldn't spend too much time there. Now I have to figure out if he's like trying to like lead me astray, or most of the time it's genuine. So rarely does a hunter say 100% go here. This is all you need to worry about. Blah blah blah. But it's like they'll give you a data point that's interesting or really helpful, and you start getting 5 or 6 data points, and you're able to either circle places or cross things off, right? One of the guys was like, there's this road that everyone talks about. Well, last year it was washed out, and I went to double check to see if he's bullshitting me. He's 100% right. It was 100% washed out. You cannot get to the top. You can't get anywhere near the top. So this is like this whole glassing area that I wanted to access. You really can't access it because the road's closed at the bottom. Super helpful tip. Like now I was able to cross off that part, you know, or have to figure out a different access
How to hike
point.
to it or something.
And I
But
will
like-
say too, what Porter does a good job with, I am not even half as social as he is, and I don't have half the energy he does, so I'm terrible at this. But Porter, the other thing he does really well that he gets a lot of fruit from is he'll report back to people that have given him information.
Good tip.
About things that he has found. So like if a water is dry this year, he'll get on the phone and be like, hey, you know that water I was telling you about, like that that one's dry, but the one you told me about is good. So like, yeah, the one I was excited about, it's dry. Well, now that guy knows without having to go out there that's dry this year. And it's like, that's that give and take is when you're actually reporting back to people that have given you even just a road closure or anything.
That's exactly right. And then if they hunt it next year, they have that updated
know.
info. It's the give take. You don't just take. It's just like anything in life. You don't just take. Or you say things like, "Hey man, but I don't want like your secret spots or anything. Don't tell me anything you're uncomfortable about." Like that's like showing you have respect for like the intel and like, you know, and hey, if you ever draw anything in Colorado, I know these units pretty well. Hit me up. I'm happy to like just, you know, just be genuine. Good person. Don't be a prick.
I will say though, one of the coolest thing is when you do help people and give them some information and they are successful and they let you know
Oh, I
later
love
how
that.
appreciative
That's the
they are.
best. It does.
Because like
it's
while I
awesome.
was on my elk hunt last year, randomly through the people who have tagged, word got around that I was up there because people started meeting me and recognized me. And then some kids saw me packing out my bull, saw him up on the ridgeline. I didn't talk to him or anything because he left because he didn't know he didn't know if there was another tag holder there, which I was very respectful of.
Yep.
But then he somehow figured out it was me, talking to other people. Obviously, he reached out through GOHUNT and then got a hold of me through email. And it was like, hey, I'm a college kid. I was up there scouting, didn't really find any bulls. Wondering if maybe you could help me out. And it's like, it's a coveted tag. So again, we're talking about coveted tag. So like I had a coveted tag. So I was more willing to give him information, gave him a lot of information about where I was seeing bulls. His hunt was right after mine, limited time to scout because he's a college kid. And then he sent me an email later. It was first bull ever. And it was the coolest feeling ever, like helping him out on his hunt. He already was there scouting, so I felt even more willing to give information because he's already trying to do work, but he was college, and it felt really good to give back when you can.
100%.
I love finding guys that have a tag for the same unit for a different species.
Yeah,
No,
that's
So
the
deer
go-to.
and elk. That's the move.
That's a
go-to.
great
So
tip.
the great thing about that is I can say I have a deer tag. You have an elk tag. I'll tell you about every bull I see.
Yep.
You tell me about any big bucks you see. We'll swap intel,
Yep.
and that's
Yep.
served me pretty well.
I
over
do that all the
years.
time on my deer hunts.
As I was walking into here, that's what Clint and I were just doing. Clinton's got an elk tag in the unit that is like a Plan B unit for me for deer. I was like, well, I'm going to go up in a couple weeks, check cameras. I'll feed you if I see any elk.
Yep.
And then same for deer.
Swap intel.
It's just
Biggest-
like helping.
Biggest buck I know about DIY public land that I know about being killed, it was killed with exactly that. He had a deer tag. They ran into guys with elk tags. They started telling him about all the elk that they were seeing. And then he goes, yeah, we just saw a giant deer up over here. Well, they go up over there, and it's the biggest buck I've ever seen come off of DIY public land.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm a big proponent of this kind of stuff, and I think like looking back on the best animals I've killed, almost assuredly it's come from exchanging of information with people that have either hunted the unit or have been in the unit looking for other species, and just exchanging intel and like staying in touch and just like agreeing to like help each other out.
Yep.
You know, like I can't express it enough. Like that's been really important for me. Just like networking, throwing it out there, and then like you're saying, just trying to be. I mean, I'm sure I haven't done perfectly all the time, but just trying to be a good dude. Like trying to give and take.
And I mean, we're in the industry, so we obviously have expanded intel networks, but that's that beautiful thing about the insider community is they go on the unit profiles. Anyone willing to share anything, you know, and they exchange emails, and we're going to develop some features
We're gonna fix that.
to help that for them. But like people are, and I think part of it is because it's behind a paywall, so it's not just like out on like a Reddit forum or a
Right.
you know, hunting forum or something. and they feel a little bit safer there to share. And there's 99.9% of it is genuine people helping each other. There's rarely any negativity. And like in the hunting community, like you want someone burned a bunch of points, especially like you want them to have a good experience, because otherwise they have a crappy experience and then maybe they give up on hunting, and then obviously ties back to conservation. They're not buying tag fees and like that whole thing. Like we don't want people leaving our industry. Like we need hunters, and we want people having good experience in the field.
Yeah. Wrap that up with a bow, I think, and I'm gonna transition over to the next one. But a lot of I'm gonna use it as a springboard, if you will. But a lot of the map work that I do initially is based on the intel that I've gained from other people, like talking about different areas and things, and then we'll move into maps. But I guess I would say just kind of wrap it up with a bow as far as like making phone calls, networking. So like, don't be a dick.
Be cool, man.
Be cool, man. Yeah. Exchange information and be willing to give and take. If you do call a biologist, actually, if you call anybody, I would say it's like Lorenzo was saying, do the work
first.
Do the work first.
Yeah.
Like a weekend out on the unit, and then you call up a biologist and say, hey, I was out there for 3 days this last weekend. I saw a deer here. I saw a deer here. I saw a deer here. Is that like good? Would you expect to see? Is it typical? Yeah. Is that what you expect to see? Anything that you can give them, like, will open the floodgates to them because they feel the effort from you.
Yeah.
Like that genuine effort goes a long ways with folks. So
another good tip on that is, especially if you're like a high country hunt, where you're dealing with national forest, call that local national forest office and just, hey, are there any recent road closures I need to be aware of?
I got a good one on your deer hunt in Colorado. Logging guys, like any guys driving work truck.
Dude, natural resource specialists.
They come driving by. Hey, you guys need a water. I got coffee in here. You need some food. Like, you see any deer when you're driving this road? Told us about a deer, some cheaters. I'm like, hey, there's a buck in this spot. Yeah. We need to.
Truck drivers.
Don't want to overlook this.
That's a good tip. Yeah, those guys are cruising the roads all the time. Yeah. I mean, I hunted a buck I've told this story, but I would listen for the trucks to go by at night, and I would know when those deer were crossing back and forth on the freeway because you'd hear the trucks throwing the Jake brakes. Yeah. And there's a number of times I saw those bucks just right off the highway. But yeah, like just little tidbits. Natural resource specialists. I know guys in Cedar that are out working on projects. Those guys see a lot of animals that most people don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can throw you a bone. YouTube. I use YouTube a lot. So like I'll jump on YouTube and just do a Google search, elk unit, blah, 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 and just see what pops up. A lot of times there's hunting videos guys have put together and filmed, and like you get just a lay of the landscape, what the terrain looks like.
Yep.
Try not to be that guy that like takes a peek in the background and then lines it up with your map. But I mean, have I done it? Yeah. Maybe. Just saying. So yeah, all those are good. But I want to jump over to maps. This is kind of bread and butter. Mm-hmm. This is where Brady J. Miller, Chris Porter jumps in.
Love me some maps.
What are you doing?
Have a logistics off here?
Yeah, we are.
What do you say?
I have a logistics off. I want to. Maybe you guys can grade Brady's approach versus mine.
Yeah. What are you doing with maps? What's your first? What are your steps?
Everything.
Ladies first. Go ahead.
Second, I get a tag, I'm on maps. And I like to throw the little thing out there again. Maps is one of those things that isn't sexy compared to other things. Everyone likes to post photos on Instagram, shooting their bow, shooting their rifle, out doing fitness stuff like I do. I run every day. I don't ever post when I'm scouting for maps. Because why? Because it's not sexy. And I don't want to show people where I'm scouting as well. But I think it's one of the things
maybe you should. It's not Sweaty Hat. It's Sexy Maps.
Sexy Maps Sunday.
You know what's so funny about Brady though is he won't ask for help, but he's actually really pretty good at helping others. Like when people hit him up.
Sure. Yeah.
I like to help. But like this is where I think some people just think of it as, the redhead stepchild of your approach to everything. Everyone shoots all the time. They do the training all the time. Do this other thing. But when it comes to maps, they're just like, yeah, I'm going to not to pick on you, trail. I got the trailhead marked.
That's
and
me.
I'm just going to run around.
It's true.
It's like you have so much free time.
I'm not far off.
We have a phone.
I do more than that, but I'm not far off.
For elk, in your defense, that's mostly for elk.
Here's the thing. It's very species specific.
Yeah,
like when it comes to antelope, I mean, you can agree. I spent a lot of time on an antelope hunt.
He had all the water sources marked in the antelope hunt.
Same with deer. I'll spend a lot more time scouting for deer. It's just like elk. It's like that time frame when I'm hunting. It's so chaotic.
Yeah.
Like
That is
if
true.
I can draw a circle around an area, I'm like a polygon. Okay, there should be elk in here. I'm going to go in there and just see what happens.
Yeah.
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 That's
It's
true.
we
Very
can-
good point.
I can e-scout on my phone constantly. I can download the offline map ahead of time. I can start looking at this whenever I'm free. If I'm at an airport and I have a layover, I can have my computer and my phone. I'm on the plane flying. Why do I need to watch Netflix when I could be e-scouting? Like literally, any information you can get on the phone is good
There's
information.
pretty good
I mean,
shows
have you
on there.
seen? Yeah, have you seen Baby Reindeer's? Pretty good.
Oh, it's awesome.
Have you seen
Such,
that?
such a good show.
That's
Holy
a
hell,
doozy.
it's a good show.
That's a doozy.
Yeah. So it's
Funny,
like,
scary. What are we doing?
Kind of both.
Okay.
so it's like the day you get a tag is the day you should start working. And it's like, it's one of those things where all those other things I'm talking about, the working out, the shooting, like you do that multiple times. Like you said, you're going to shoot 5 days a week right now. How many days, honestly, could you say you're e-scouting? Are you e-scouting just as much as you're shooting? Probably not.
No,
most people,
not as
most people, like I can put myself in the same boat. I do a lot, but I probably could do more. But it's like I want to learn everything I can about the unit, so I'll start that backward, like.
But what are you doing?
A zoomed out approach first, just kind of scanning around, looking at
What
you know,
layer? What layers are you putting on?
a lot of times I won't put layers on.
No layers.
Yeah, because I
Unit boundary.
I'll put unit boundaries, the roads, trails, a little bit of things like that. But like, I'm trying to find access points right away. Maybe not just for me, but maybe like, all right, this is close proximity to a town. I've given an explanation before. Some of my late season hunts, a lot of people like to hunt out of hotels, that sort of thing. So how far then is someone willing to drive every day from hunting out of a hotel? Well, if they're starting to drive an hour and a half every single day, they're going to start wearing on themselves. So most people probably are camping in a hotel really close to where they're probably hunting.
So that's an interesting thought. You're thinking about what other people
are doing. So like that proximity then, if they're only able to drive an hour, because then they have to come back an hour every night, they have to eat food, they're going to be not sleeping as much, they're not going to be willing to go further than that unit. So if I know the other side of the unit is very, very remote, maybe has a couple trailheads, but there's no towns nearby, well, that's an area that could be a sanctuary for big game animals because they're not getting pressured by these people coming out from a town basically day hunting every single
Something I
day.
haven't really thought about.
So it's like using it differently too. So I'm just taking that zoomed out approach, scanning around everything, finding access points, obviously marking spots, marking roads, marking where I would turn from a town, turn on the trailhead, maybe park at the side of the road or park at a trailhead. Like just kind of figuring that out a little bit, start analyzing the terrain, figuring out, I know certain type of slope I want to look at during certain times of year. I'll start highlighting it. If I see sort of habitat types that I like good timber, maybe it's got some aspens, it's got some some PJs nearby, maybe we'll mark it as some bucky habitat, start like getting a general idea written down. And then as I progress through the season of e-scouting, I'll start fine tuning it a little bit more. Like, hey, here's a cool glassing spot. What can I see here? Hey, here's a good water source that I think using historical imagery. Like just slowly start adding more and more waypoints and more data points essentially to that. Where potentially could I camp? If I camp here, how many backup spots do I have from there? Is it an area that I could bounce out if I need to, hike really far away, hike back in, or can I utilize a trail system to hike in a different part of the area? So just kind of slowly building a big research study of library of waypoints and ideas and dropping notes on some of those waypoints. Like, hey, if I'm here, estimated time it's going to take me to get here. Just trying to work my way through the process. And I've always said before, like, I know I can find animals through maps. I just can't. I know I won't be able to find a 200-inch mule deer on a map. That's impossible. But I can find animals that potentially could have a big buck on it by learning habitats and biology and figuring out where I might want to look in that unit. But again, proximity from a road, there could be a 200-inch deer right from a road, and I'm going to go hike past it just because I like the experience of hiking past it. So I'm trying to look for a different experience when I'm out hunting, but it's just trying to figure out where animals might be is my most important point before I step foot in the unit.
Porter, you just went and hung cameras, right?
Yeah.
You just said that. How did you find those areas via maps?
I do a very, very similar to what he's doing. Not quite as intense, like not quite as technical, but it's very similar to what he's describing. Like, to me, it's very much tied to having a plan of, can I get to that waypoint? So like we worked Thursday, it's only 3 hours away from here, give or take. So it stays light till 8:30 right now, right? So it was around, okay, where's a good spot to glass that night so we can be productive? I like to be as productive as possible. You only get so many mornings and evenings when you're scouting or even hunting. So I really want to put myself in a place where I can glass. So to me, it's about, I do very similar to him. Not quite as intense. Like, he's way more detailed than me, but I definitely want to have a plan. So I start putting a bunch of waypoints on like places I've heard about or springs that look good on a map. I start to put them a particular icon color. I think I do like blue or something.
So
That's
you're
like
utilizing the water layer a lot.
water. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I'm hunting the desert.
'Cause it's
Yeah,
desert.
Yeah,
the
it's desert. So
desert.
I'm focused on water. But even in the high country, I will for like to know camps.
Yep, camp
or
waterspoon.
yeah. I mean, in Colorado they mostly have water, so mostly it's to identify a camp spot. But yeah, on this Nevada hunt, it's like okay, I'm gonna put out a bunch of maybes, and then I do that like right when I drew the tag for the first couple weeks, just like throw out a bunch of waypoints that are maybes.
Maybe spots where a deer would be, or maybe spots I would want to look from.
If it's a potential glassy knob, I make those the glassine icon in a particular color.
Yep.
So I try to organize. This is something I've just done recently. It's really helped. Is organize my waypoint colors.
You have a great article on GOHUNT. By the way.
Cody, who I love, shared his waypoints with me, and he had exported them. These are probably old, so he exported from a different platform, but there was no styling on them. It was like
A Picasso.
It was an obnoxious amount of waypoints. I appreciate you sharing, but I had to like shut them off. So that's the other thing I do is now you hunt over a course of a decade or whatever. Like you have all these waypoints and they default on. So I've actually started to default them off, and I'm big on hunt folders. So a lot of people don't realize, but you can on web maps, you can like get your screen to all the waypoints you want, and you can take the little arrow and you do a big circle and throw those all in. So I threw it into my Nevada 2024 hunt. And then this is another really sweet little feature. There's a little pin button, and you hit it, it's active, and then every waypoint you add when it's active, it throws in that folder. So I turn off every single waypoint for every single hunt to just declutter my map, because now I'm hunting like I've had tags similar areas to this before. So like I have waypoints that are like 6 years old. So I turn all that off to reduce the noise. And I focus on just like building this hunt folder and then color coding things. So I'll have like, my maybe spots. And then I have as I got close to going out last weekend, I started changing them to a different color to represent this is my plan to place a camera. And then when I went out there in the field, when I actually placed the camera there, I changed it to another color. So it was like blue or whatever, and I changed it to green. So that's like, I have a camera there. So now when you look at my map, you see green, which is like all my cameras. You see yellow, which is my glassy knobs. And then I picked up one from Cody as we were going down these roads. Logistics King lost his nickname a couple times during our scouting trip because I got us lost. Typically the passenger navigates, but he had never been
I
there
watched
before.
Rally Car.
So I'm like this. But a couple of the roads were I thought going to be better than they were, so I smack a red icon there with the trail icon, which means not a good road or ATV only. So really doing different colors, you have to remember what they mean, and then putting notes in the field, like shitty road or this spring's dry. And then so the one I got from Trail, from Cody, which is really handy, is that little trail icon, and then I think I make it yellow, which is like when I'm going to a particular spot, it's like turn left here. So it's like, you know how there's can be a lot of options of how to get somewhere?
Yep.
I find the best route. I drop a little icon there with the trail icon, or make it yellow. Trail, it means turn left. What are you freaking giggling about?
Nothing. We're waiting for a pause. I got a lot to jump on here. Waiting for a pause.
Paused.
Okay. I got a lot to dissect here, Porter, for you. So a little birdie sent me a little message before we jumped on this podcast and said, you should lightly roast Porter for knowing we had GOHUNT maps for all these years and not knowing we had this certain feature. They just found out about this weekend. You mentioned it earlier, very casually. Like
I might find out right now at the table. I'm just saying.
We launched this feature in September. I just looked it up to the date. September of 2021, we launched this feature called active pinning a folder. And he just found out about it this weekend.
Better late than never.
My office is very close to yours, Porter, and you know I'm a resource for you at any time. And this feature is so great because you're talking about folders, turning them off and on, pinning it so that way all that data, when you're out in the field, e-scouting, it's automatically going to that folder, so you don't have to reorganize it later and select the tool and add it to it. And then the other thing you just mentioned too is that was hilarious. You're like memorizing your color coding. I'm going to give you this tip right now, and I'm going to probably write it down for you and stick it on your computer. You can take your color coding scheme that you're using, the hunt folder. You can add notes on your hunt folder.
And you can create a
You
legend.
can create a legend.
Don't act like you do that.
You can create a legend.
I have. I
Don't
know,
act like you
I
do that.
know
I don't do that right here.
You can create a
I
legend on your
don't
hunt
do that,
folder.
but I know
You two don't do that.
is-
I'm getting lectured from the king.
I definitely don't do that.
I've
I
known
bet
that
you
was
99%
possible.
of our listeners have
I've
don't.
known that was possible. I don't necessarily use it, but I know that's possible.
You can create your own little legend, like blue equals glassing, yellow equals e-scouting glassing.
Like notes
white,
right there?
White is right there. You can drop all that in there, so that way you memorize your color coding, and then eventually you don't have to do it. But the first couple times, like I have a lot of hunt folders, I just copy and paste and drop that in there, so just so I memorize it. Or if I'm sharing that folder with someone later,
They
like when
know
I'm
what
sharing
the
with the
legend
trail,
is.
that way trail has that legend as well, and it's really handy for it.
Oh,
so,
that
so
is
someone
nice.
just told me, hey, give Porter a little hard time about a few of these things. I'm not going to mention this person's name, or if it's a guy or a girl.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
Brady is the maps guy, so this is understandable here. You're just logistics guy.
I'm
Brady's
just helping the
map guy.
logistics king out
There
a
you
little
go.
bit more,
Okay.
be more logistically ready next time. So I was just looking over at Lorenzo like,
You
wait,
got to
wait
admit
for me,
though, what
Lorenzo.
I'm probably using maps more from an organization standpoint more than most.
For sure.
And I'm
More
getting
than me.
lectured from the king.
Yeah, absolutely.
About how I need to step up my game.
More than me.
More
for sure.
than me for sure.
No,
those are-
those are good tips, Brady.
But
the active pin is
It's a great thing.
it is a sweet feature.
Yeah. And I will admit, there's been times I've gone out and forgot to do it. And then I get back, I'm like, why did I forget to do it? Now I have to highlight them
yes.
all and add them. But it doesn't take long. That's why the bulk select tool is really great. You can add it to it. But it's just
That's
all
only
these
on web,
all these
though.
little things.
Or- yeah, that's only
are
on
gonna-
web, right?
What?
That's only on web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna run through some layers. I want to get your reactions on how much you use them and why.
Okay.
The color code though.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
It's super valuable.
If you just
Very
have all,
valuable.
If you just all have old,
I'm gonna hit the
We-
trailhead and go.
We should do a reel about it.
hey,
I agree.
You and your New Mexico, because you've never been to that area. Please,
I'm gonna hit the trailhead and go.
Let's talk layers. So I'm gonna read a layer off. You guys tell me how you use it. Fire layer. Important, not important?
Very important. Essential.
I'd say for elk, me, it's like one of the first layers I look at.
Correct.
Yep.
depends on the yes, but depends on the area. But yes,
I'm more so turning on like the 3 to
3 to 5.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 to 6 to 8 even sometimes. But like I'm typically doing that only. But yes, it's one of the first ones.
like in a big timber area, like where you're hunting elk, it's like incredibly important.
Way important. And I'll even apply that way. So I'll use that
Yeah.
layer
Yep.
prior to even applying to be like, where are the burns in the
Yes.
last 4 years? That's
Yep.
probably an area I want to take a look at.
I even go one step further and use the active fire layer on the web. I want-
Active
I want-
penning, active fire layer.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
I
the
want real time like
Be active.
Like for this year 2024 wildfires, you can utilize that and start seeing where the fires are. Sometimes I use that for even if it's a fire somewhere nearby. Am I going to be able to glass? Is it going to? There's a wind going that way where I'm not going to be able to glass certain times of day because it's going to be. We've all been there, or maybe a lot of people have. Where hunting near a burn, obviously you're safe enough away
That's
from
what
it.
makes elk cool because they still bugle.
Yeah, they still.
Oh gosh. So yeah, I got to be able to
Just
glass. So I'm trying to
saying.
figure out the
Just
winds. I
saying.
can glass these suckers. Because they're regal and superior and just mountain, just monarchs.
All right, you ready for the next layer?
Yeah.
Migration layers and routes.
Oh, buddy.
So
yes.
various states offer those. Do you use them and
Yes.
why?
Yep. I use it to basically highlight an area where I potentially might find animals during certain times of year because, again, it's a seasonality thing. Animals got to move out of the mountains. So if I'm hunting a late season hunt and a state's giving me some migration layers, obviously it's not exactly like this is the funnel that the deer exactly use. It's a range. It's a broad range, but it's going to give me maybe that elevation band layer. Then I'll turn on elevation bands, start highlighting that area, overlay the public-private on top of it. And so where that winter migration layer meets the public land, that's probably a hot spot for me to key into because if it's migration layer and all private, well, that could be a bad thing because that means all those bucks are going to migrate down and be on the private land. So I'll lose that again, like you're saying, the wildfire layer for applying. I'll use this stuff before I go on the hunt to figure out if it's a unit that all these stuff stack up on top of each other that could potentially paint a good picture of where I'll find some animals.
I might demote myself to. He might be logistics king. He's intense
This is
with
maps.
this.
He's maps king for
This
sure.
is Jesus.
I'm not logistics. Like
I guarantee you,
no.
90% of the people listening to this have
Maps
no
Jesus.
freaking clue what the hell you're
Maps
talking about.
Jesus?
Maps Jesus.
Yes,
There we go.
yes, that's a good one. That's got to stick. That's got to stick. Maps.
So you're still logistically, like, hey, we're going to do this
You be
evening
the
at
Maps
this
Holy
time.
Ghost.
We're
Yeah,
leaving.
picking out like where we're stopping for food.
Yeah,
and
we're
like,
leaving at
where
4:20
we get
p.m.
nice for.
Your plans are you are logistics. You're like the stops, the goes, the this, the that. He is the map
Did he just say he
Everything.
does the active layer to know where to stay safe because of the wind on a?
No,
Glassy
no,
wise,
no,
yeah.
where wind might be for wildfires, or trying to figure out. Okay, here's the thing too. If there was an active burn in the summer and it went out at a certain time of year, by the time my hunt comes, those new green growth could already be potential to hunt it that year in that burn.
Yeah,
a lot of people might stay away
Depending
from that
on
burn.
time of year.
Depending on time of year. Like you have an early burn in June. By the time I get there, 3-4 months later, because I'm a late season hunter, there could be some new growth browse in there that deer might key in on.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
look
I'm gonna
at
be able to glass in there too, because now that fresh burn is going to be an area.
Make sure you're breathing. I don't want you passing out.
I,
Migration layer. Go around. It's supposed to be a round table.
That's probably one of the layers I use the least is the migration layer.
yeah.
Probably
I
least used. Yeah, for me.
Don't you use it for like a Colorado late season deer hunt or something? Like there's
Yeah, I
certain
mean,
hunts
I will
where
look at it for sure, but as far as like how heavy I use it based on my plan, it's probably one of the
use
lower
it,
on the
I
list.
use it for elk, archery elk specifically, because if I look at those migration layers, it's going to show, or routes particularly, it's going to show those drainages. So I'm looking at the top end. I know that elk are going to be up in elevation in September, so I'm looking at the top ends of those. Like, hey, that's a good starting point to find elk. I don't really care too much about where they're going to transition to in the winter, but I do use those a lot for like starting points of like, hey, this is where your herds are in the summer. That's probably where I'm going to find them in September. So I use that quite a
And you're
bit.
using it the opposite way, because a lot of times, like you can do the summer range, but if you turn on the summer range in all these states,
everything.
it just shows the whole state.
Sure.
And it's like, okay,
I don't use the actual, like like some of those have like a critical summer range.
Yeah.
You can click on those. That might be a little bit useful, but I use the actual, like the migration route. So it'll be like a line on a map.
Yeah.
It'll show it like coming down through the drainages. And mostly me as an archery hunter, I'm not really concerned about the bottom 3/4. I'm concerned about the top quarter, because that's where the animals are going to be when I'm hunting them. And that's probably where they're starting from. That's where they're
I
summering.
need to use that more. I don't use that enough.
I've even used it sometimes for bear hunting when I've hunted in late June bear hunting, trying to find areas where there's calving grounds.
Yeah.
By the way,
Did you find
I
an epic
was
bear
late
spot?
to the game and just saw that podcast clip on our Instagram.
Oh, I saw you commenting. I thought you were trying to like make sure I was responding to comments. So like, I don't know. You're responding to old videos.
I missed that clip of you saying bear hunting was better than elk hunting. I almost lost my shit.
Yeah, you commented.
I was-
He commented both on the Instagram reel, and then he went to YouTube Shorts and made a very
I
similar.
double commented.
He was roasting me in both places.
That's insanity.
And he sent you a DM.
That
what are you
is-
thinking?
that is insanity. We can move on, but that is crazy.
Unpaid
talk.
day off.
Is your girlfriend?
Think about your life.
Yeah.
You don't want your girlfriend to see that. She might think you're absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah. I already mentioned, but you kind of brought it up, but land ownership boundaries, private land, public land, wilderness.
I love when I don't have to use it because that means you're up in the high country and that's
Yeah, you got a lot of
amazing.
public land.
Yeah, but I mean, you definitely have to have it on.
Yeah. Use it a lot.
I
I'd
look
say-
for wilderness immediately.
Sure.
That's a good one.
Me as well.
That's like a go-to, and to just know I'm getting away from people, and not a lot of people are going to be, those Texas, Nevada, Utah license plates. Well, actually, more so Texas than anything. They're probably not going to be in the wilderness.
Don't forget Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. No, I use them a lot actually, and I think it's like one of the first layers I turn on just because I want to get a lay of the land.
Yeah.
And in regards to access, like there's a lot of areas that I might end up archery elk hunting or want to, but I may not be able to access them because of private land being a limiting factor
locking
in
them
the
up.
bottom end
Yep.
of it. So I use those quite a bit. I wanted to jump over to tools. So tools, Brady, talk to me about train analysis.
Yep, train analysis is one of the most powerful, one of my most favorite tools I use. And again, you use it in multiple different ways, but it allows you to basically highlight an area. It's going to color code it, and as you select certain things, like you can select slope, you have elevation, you have all the aspect, all that. So like as you're going through there and turn on certain things, those will highlight on the map. So you can say, I want to look at a north-facing slope. I want 10 to 25 degrees. I want it between this elevation range because I'm thinking these bulls are going to be up at this time of year. And then it's going to highlight.
I heard it.
I did say bulls because we're talking about elk here. I know you guys are just wanting elk only.
Appreciate that.
And I'm trying to hide some of my mule deer stuff. Okay? So it's easy to cover.
First of all, I prefer mule deer. So does Lorenzo. I think. Are you?
I would prefer to hunt elk,
You did.
but there's nothing like killing a big mule deer.
I love me some deer. I think we're just trying to keep you honest that deep down you do love elk too, but you just have a hard time saying it.
I will be looking at a bunch of big bulls again this
I'm
year.
conflicted. I'm very conflicted in my mind. I would rather hunt elk in the rut with a bow, but there's nothing like killing a big mule deer.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Okay. Train
I'm
analysis
very
again.
conflicted.
Back to train analysis.
Archery elk next year. Me and you save it.
So like looking at a map, like we're talking about before, like how would I do it? Well, I can turn it on 3D. I can highlight those things on terrain analysis to then try to figure out, okay, these are maybe areas that animals could be during certain times of year. Maybe I'll drop some waypoints on it. Maybe figure out, okay, how am I going to glass into this slope? How am I going to look at this between these elevation bands and this? You know, like it's basically trying to pinpoint places animals could be. And you can use it the opposite way too. You can use it in places where you might not want to look at it all. Like you might not want to look at a south-facing slope during a certain time of year because there can be no animals on there. And what's on that south-facing slope? Well, it's getting burnt by the sun all the time. That vegetation is not going to be great. So you can also use it opposite of that. And then like I like to talk about a lot too is I extrapolate all my hunting data all the time when I'm out in the field. I mark every time.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted you to make.
Okay.
And it's I'll let you make it and then I'll add to it.
So like everyone I think uses maps sort of incorrectly. Like again,
I can't tell.
Yeah. So
Maps,
what is
who's credit for that nickname? Was that you?
I
Was
took
that Cody?
Yeah, that's me.
That
That's
was
Maps.
That was
is
Trail.
a stick.
That's T-Rail.
That one is sticking.
Mule Maps Jesus?
so
The MMJ?
You gotta admit, like we're laughing with you, not at
I
you.
know,
Right?
I know, I
You
love
are
it.
a nerd when it
Yeah.
comes to maps.
So here again, our statement on what GOHUNT is different than other companies too. GOHUNT is a hunting tool, not necessarily a mapping tool.
Why are you yelling at me?
I'm just looking straight at you. So when I'm out there, I'm using this as a hunting tool, not necessarily a navigation tool. Most people I think use maps as a navigation tool, and I think they're missing out on a lot of the true benefits. So when you're out in the field,
That's valid.
my number one thing when I'm out in the field is to collect data and collect intel. The best way I can do that is by dropping waypoints of everything I
Yep.
see out there. So that way I know when things change. A hunting buddy wants to go in there. Maybe even though I'm not an elk hunter, I mark all the wallows I see all the time. I want to know that information. So
Let
that
me
way
get
when I do
those
have,
wallows.
So you can give them to me.
Let me get
Yeah.
them wallows.
Let
dude.
me get
who's carrying, bro?
Let me get
Yeah.
them
You don't care about
wallows.
elk, share 'em.
like we're saying earlier, you guys we're talking about
That's
elk
a
again.
t-shirt. Let me get them
Let me get
wallows.
them wallows, bro. Come on.
I'll get you some.
You're on
All right,
fire today.
So
Let me
like,
get them wallows.
Let me get them
so
wallows.
like you're talking about, if you're out scouting right now and you're trying to find the cows because you have a
Yeah.
September elk hunt, you should be marking all those cows. Like not like
I agree.
okay, I see 50, I'm not going to drop 50 waypoints right there, but like marking those cow groups so that when you go back in there, you have that intel. If I see a doe mule deer, I'm marking that doe. If I see a bull elk, I'm marking that exactly where that animal is at, and then I'm looking at why is that animal in that particular spot on that time of day on that month. What is it with that animal? Why does it need to be there? What core habitat, cover, water, feed is that animal keying in on? And then I can eventually, when I'm collecting all that data, and then if I'm just scouting in that area and I only have time to scout one spot in the unit, I can then take that similar data, extrapolate to somewhere else in the unit. I'm figuring out, okay, all these deer are on this slope, this elevation. Where other places in that unit using the terrain analysis tool have those same features? And then I'm looking at the satellite image behind it, seeing is the timber the same? Is it open? Is there PJs? Is there aspens? What sort of mix is there that could be similar that I can find in areas? And then I use that too to extrapolate it to other states even. It's not going to be an apples to apples comparison because states are all different. But like if I'm finding a big trend on
Yeah, but
when I'm
mule
finding
deer is mule
animals,
deer and elk's an elk.
yeah, they're very similar. So you can use that information. And then going even a step further is marking all your kill locations. Like where you kill animals a lot of times isn't totally random. An animal is there for a particular reason again. So I'm figuring out these are the elevations in October I'm killing bucks. These are the slope. This is the aspect what way the mountain is facing. All this stuff over time, I'm building a bigger and bigger data set. And I always throw the caveat out there, I'm only a sample size of one. So it's hard to say like there's a pattern, but eventually more times you go hunting, the more data and waypoints you collect, you can then, your data set gets bigger and bigger. Like if we all wanted to share our waypoints together to figure out stuff, I've shared some with you. You've shared some with me. But like we're starting to collect that bigger data
Give and
set.
take, give and take.
And that's where like that color coding comes into play because I instantly know where my kill locations are because the only time I use black is kill locations.
Ooh.
So I can
Pull up
easily
your maps.
visually
Let me
see.
see.
We need a Grim
Just want to
Reaper.
make sure that.
I wish I'd done a better job with that.
Yeah,
Honestly.
but here's the
But then
thing.
you
If
look
you
back
just
all
have
the time.
all orange,
Like
it is.
if I showed you,
No, like if I should have marked. I have not marked every single kill that
But
I.
but now you could. So that's
But
what
now
I
I
was
could.
thinking.
You can still go back in
I was
time.
thinking about today as I was driving down and going through and kind of prepping for this. I can go back through and I plan to do it because I've listened to your seminar that you gave at the shoot, the thing that we did this last weekend with Cam. But I can go back through and drop pins
Yeah,
on
you
kill
still can.
sites. Yeah, I still can do that. I can go back and drop pins on bucks that I hunted that I didn't kill, and I think there's a lot of validity to it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it helps, and then use those in conjunction with this terrain analysis tool, and then use that to extrapolate out across a unit, across a new unit, across a state boundary into a new unit. I think it's a pretty sick tip.
It's like a puzzle, and it's your data. It's evergreen, and you can go back and use it.
Yeah, you're becoming, in a way, your own biologist. You're collecting everything to know about that herd in that unit. And I'm saying too, I'm marking other species I'm not even hunting. If I see a bear on a fall hunt, I'm going to mark that bear. If I see an elk, cow elk, whatever it is, just mark it and collect it. If I see, other hunters are camping in certain areas, I'm going to mark their camp spots, not because I want to go camp there later on, because then I'm developing that zone of pressure.
Yeah. Hey guys.
But it's just like you're out there scouting, you're out there doing a purpose, you're trying to find animals, but you should also be collecting more data using your maps.
Good one.
That is.
Talk to me about historical imagery.
Historical imagery. So you can use that too. Do I have to keep answering them all? Like you guys said, I'm
Porter,
talking
I mean,
all the
you
time.
are the maps guy.
You are MMJ.
How would you?
I was thinking of trying to think of an analogy here. Like it's like you have like buddies that have like a super beautiful organized garage with their tools, everything's dialed. He reminds me of that's him, right?
His house is pretty orderly.
Don't look in my garage.
And then your garage is probably messy.
Disaster.
Okay, but you
Absolute
could,
disaster
if
in my
you
garage.
wanted to go in your garage and slightly organize
Prepper.
it, you could do that with your maps. You could go in there
Yeah,
and
you can
clean
organize
it
it.
up a
That's a
little
good
bit.
I
analogy.
got kids though, man. I got a great excuse. I got bikes and dirt bikes and shit laying everywhere.
What were we doing on the plane though when we were flying back from lift, run, shoot? You could have been on your phone organizing, color coding your waypoints.
You're right, and I was watching Arrested Development instead.
Look,
Very fun.
you have way more
Great
experience than me.
job.
I'm not going to tell you how to hunt. You're the one that teaches me. You're one of my mentors. I highly encourage you to have a little bit tighter of a plan for New Mexico, though.
I'll get around.
You
to
are
it.
going
I'll
to a
get
new
there.
spot.
I'll
It's
get
going to be
there.
legit. And I'm excited
you're
for
right.
you. But
I'd be excited to know how Porter uses historical imagery.
I used it for a scouting trip.
Yep.
So I used it to track whether a spring. There was a particular spring that we had to hike into, and I was like, is it worth it? And so I was toggling on historical imagery to really confirm that there's consistent water there. Tracking, I think that I've used it for tracking water. I used it last year to figure out where we should camp because I was really worried about camping. I like to camp on water, preferably not like where the animals water too. But I don't like to like go super far for water if I don't have to. So that's how I usually use it. Tracking fires.
Yep. You can check a burn, how it's growing throughout the years, if it's getting all that
It's a sweet
nasty.
tool. Like it's something that you really should use. I'm not saying you have to do it for like hours and hours at night, but like you should.
Yeah, there's a
turn
use
that
case
on
for
and
it.
take-
Snowpack, looking at different things, time of year, vegetation growth. If that water that you had in June that you saw, is that water going to be available to you in September, or is it going to dry up? You can kind of use historical imagery to go back in time for that.
Yeah, I've used it to find wall tents in the backcountry. Be like, okay, there's a hunting camp. Usually it
that's
sets
a
up
good
here
tip.
outfitter camps.
Yep.
I use it for elk specifically to check springs and seeps. You can see the color of the vegetation in and around it. A lot of times you can actually see a wallow if it's in a meadow, in a wet meadow. I like to go back and like look at the historical to say like, okay, is it perennial? Is it there every single year? Can I count on that for a water source? So I use it a lot for elk, and I use it a ton for antelope.
Yeah, antelope. I've probably used it the most for.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
if I've ever
checking
used
water.
it for antelope.
Oh yeah, you can
it's
check
great for
stock
antelope.
tanks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good
just to go back through, check those different tanks to see if there's water in them year after year after year.
Or just maybe looking at it to see if there's cattle on it, because if you see cattle on satellite imagery, you probably know there's water.
Oh yeah, and you can always see. That's another great thing, like historical imagery. If you're just cruising it, even just aerial imagery in general, like you don't necessarily have to like drill down and find each of individual water sources. A lot of times you can just look aerial imagery from 30,000 foot and just see those cattle trails coming in.
Yeah.
Just looks like a big old, I don't know, spoke, I guess,
Big old
and a
sunray.
bicycle wheel. Yeah, you can just see
Yeah.
those cattle trails
I
coming
use
in.
it for deadfall in the wilderness too, to see how bad deadfall's
Jack
gotten
straw.
in certain areas. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and sometimes you can find like old sheep, goat trails, maybe
Yeah.
deer trails in the high country too by using historical imagery. Because sometimes that camera angle even changes a little bit of the shadows of some of those imagery, and then you can maybe see like a big trail coming down a scree face that you can then maybe use and access up. That's not like a human trail, but an animal trail.
Yeah. Maps.
Maps.
There's a lot
Hugely
to it.
important.
MMJ. We covered maps. Anything else that jumps to your top of mind when we're talking about maps before I move on? I got one more I want to hit.
I think it's so important, whether you go to like Brady J's level or a basic level, just having a plan. Like If you just go out there with like, I'm going to figure it out, like scouting, hunting, whatever, like elk hunting in the rut, that is definitely different. Like if you have a good trailhead, you're just going to hike in and you bivvy hunt, so you can like, you're really mobile. But for most hunts, it's like having a plan A, B, C, access points, roads are open, you can depend on, trails don't go through private and aren't closed off. And I mean, like last year, there was that state piece that I thought was open, but it ended up being leased. I don't even think it was to an outfitter. It was like, I don't even know who was leasing it, but it was fenced off. That was like, I'm trying to hike in, and I hit a fence that I didn't think I was going to hit. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
And then like you immediately starting to come up with plan C, D, and E.
Wire cutters.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Since we
Just
are,
kidding.
And then that
everyone.
trail, because it was blocked off, the trail was a really shitty trail. Like it wasn't the worst ever, but it was like
Not good.
boulders and rocks where you have to look at everything, and it took us twice as long to hike in. So it's just like curveballs are always going to happen to you in the field, but having a plan of attack to just get into where you want to be, and then if there's nothing there, being able to have a plan. You don't want to be, nothing's worse than mid hunt. You're in town in service trying to come up with plans.
Yeah.
That's a shitty feeling.
It is.
So
I feel
Get
like
some
I'm
good
in,
food though.
Sometimes you need a break.
Sometimes.
Manny Petty.
you guys have got me into like a giving mood right now.
oh,
Like sharing's caring, and you always want me to like give all the time. So I'm feeling giving right now. We talked about public-private earlier, and how it's very important looking at public, but it's also very important looking at private. Maybe a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of times throughout the West, if you look at private land on a map and you realize, oh, it's private, I can't hunt it, you might be able to zoom in on it or tap on it to figure out if it's not a private landowner. Sometimes those could be timber cut companies. And some of those companies actually do allow public access onto the private land and hunting on there. Yes, you probably won't be able to find it right there, but you can like Google the timber cut company, maybe get a website, maybe get a contact you can reach out to, and they will allow public access through it.
Yeah.
It varies across every single state.
My mind goes to Wyoming antelope. So there's a bunch of walk-in access areas that are agreement with the state and Game and Fish where you can hunt those areas. You just have to walk into them. So you might look at an area and be like, yeah, there's not a lot of public land in that unit. Isn't worth my time or my points. But in reality is there's enough walk-in access in that unit. You can have a really good hunt. Yeah. Or habitat management areas, same deal.
Yep.
Yeah. Good tip.
that was giving for you.
That was
I
very
know,
good.
that was
Nice one.
So he's in a good mood. This
Let's
girlfriend.
talk real quick. Boots on the ground.
She is amazing. Just throwing it out there.
Boots
She
on.
listens to it. He's plugging. He's just right there.
Shout out Devin.
Yeah. Is that her name?
Shout out.
Is that her name?
Do we put it out there? Last name, middle name? Just kidding. Boots on the
Instagram
ground.
handle?
Boots on the ground. You actually get boots on the ground. Important components of actually getting out on the ground. So my mind immediately goes to gear. I start thinking about the gear that you actually need to get out on the ground for scouting. So for me, I'm thinking good binoculars, tripod head, glassing pad, spotting scope, enough layers to stay warm. Even at the high country in the summer, it's pretty cool. Glassing points, so hitting those. I think of timing. So, man, nothing pisses me off more than like taking some time off to go scouting. And I, for whatever reason, I'm like, get up late and I don't make it to the glassing point. Like it's like you said earlier, you want to capitalize on prime time. You want to be there before light. You want to stay till after dark.
Yep.
For sure. Anything else like boots on the ground? I think it's a great opportunity to break in equipment too. If you got a new backpack, it's a great opportunity.
I think there's no replacement for it. If you have just the slightest opportunity to do it,
I agree.
that will be leg up on everything else that you possibly could do. Now, I don't have the option in New Mexico, but if I did, I sure as hell would be using it.
Cruising the roads is super important.
Very important. Access, how to get around.
Maybe not important is the word, but I feel like the amount of information that you gain just from being in the unit, driving around and just looking at the landscape, it's hard to replace that. Like just getting a lay of the land. I've never been to a unit to hunt it for the first time when it didn't look vastly different than what I thought it was going
100%.
to. It always does. So like if you can get just even out there to look at it, I think is a good tip, something that you should try to do if you can.
Agreed.
Yeah, I even like just running roads and like we're saying, just give me a lay of the land, but also instead of pigeonholing yourself into going into a deep backcountry basin, you only have 2 days to scout, drive roads, glass super long distance, find some areas from a road that you could glass way up there. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to tell exactly what kind of animal they are, like age glass, antlers, but bust out the biggest spotter that you have available to you and glass really far away.
So let me give you a scenario. You have a hunt in a unit. You have 2 days
Yep.
to scout it. Okay, this summer that's it. The back-to-back days.
Yep.
Would you rather pick 4 points on a map and glass 1 for each morning and evening, or would you spend your time running roads and glassing?
Can I get to those points easily, or am I backpacking into it?
You're putting some effort.
I'd run roads. I would really run roads to cover country. I want to learn that unit really well. Because then again, at the same time, what I do when I scouted a couple years ago, drove really far to a state over the same weekend right now, 4th of July, because I had a little extra time off. And I was driving roads. I did do a couple backpack things, just day trips in and out. But what I was doing a lot is parking on the side of the road and then taking photos. I was taking photos of what the terrain looked like in person.
Good tip.
And then comparing that to the
Good
map.
tip.
So I was doing some glassing from the road in the morning, but I was also just really looking at the terrain, taking photos, trying to zoom in with my phone, and then adding that photo then to the waypoint on the maps so I can reference that exact spot later, but also just cataloging a bunch of, photos, what the terrain looks like.
I mean, in a
Cross-referencing.
perfect world, you glass the morning. I mean, days are so long in the summer. Glass the morning, even if it is a couple-hour hike.
Yeah.
Come down, go to the truck, run roads
Yep.
until the evening, then
Yeah,
hike up to
midday
your
run
evening.
roads. That's what I do.
Run roads through the midday.
It's
every
less
time.
important finding the buck or the bull versus like crossing stuff off, knowing how to get into somewhere or whether it looks good. Yeah.
That's a damn good tip you just dropped right there.
Yeah, my goal when scouting is to, if it's a new unit, like my expectations are a little bit different than a unit that I hunt every single year. So like I have a unit that I like to hunt in Utah. My goal when I go to that unit is to find the buck. So I'm going to hit the areas that I think I might find the buck. Whereas if I'm scouting a new unit that I've never hunted before, I'm running roads, I'm getting familiar with the terrain, I'm finding areas that I think might be likely when I show up.
Yeah.
Because I wish I could scout every single day of the summer, but it's just reality is you can't.
Yep.
Nobody can.
We're all working for that day, though.
Yeah, we'll get there.
It's never. And I mean, even like a guy like him that'll have like so many hours into a plan on maps. It's always different. In person,
It's always
right?
different. Yeah. Like I said, you talked earlier about your A, B, and then you realize you need C, D, E plans. Like I do that same thing all the time. Not all my spots are home runs. Rarely.
I mean, last Thursday, I was like so confident. I knew exactly how to get to this glass and waypoint. There was a truck that goes right up to the top, and there's multiple people that told me it was a great spot to glass, like the whole area, and give you access and visuals. I like timed it perfect. I'm like in no rush, and then halfway up the road we hit, and we're like, oh shit, it's washed out. You can't even take an ATV up here. So we're like, oh, how do we be productive tonight? So we just started like looking around, and started running up a knob, and we were like rushing because we're like trying to be productive. You don't want to burn an evening without putting some glass up, and that whole plan went to shit when the road was washed out, and like no one knew
Better
that.
now than later.
It must happen like in
When
the
you got
winter.
tag in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's intel, and I was able to know that going into next time. But it's there's always curveballs you're gonna experience.
I agree. So we're good. We've been going a minute. I did want to run through just like one last thing. So each of you, what is, in your opinion, like different things? What's a great hunter, great scouter? Like one thing that you think that they do well. Need time to think about it. Each of you. I'll give mine,
Yeah,
and then you guys can think about it. So, I think for me, I think that a good hunter, a good scouter has the ability to read terrain. So they're on the landscape, they look at that landscape, and they have the ability to read that landscape and pick out the pockets, like the basins, the saddles, the things that are most likely to have animals in them. So I think they have the ability to read a landscape. That's what I think. That'd be my tip. So learn to read a landscape. Learn to look at a landscape and figure out. And I think a great tool we mentioned in maps is just going back through and dropping points where you've seen animals before. And pretty quick, you're going to start to figure out like, oh, I should be looking there.
Yeah.
I should be looking for edge habitat. So that'd be my tip.
Patterns.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Because it becomes second nature to a lot of people. Then
it
just
does.
be like looking at a mountain like,
Yeah,
there
you
should
can
be
sit
animals
down
there.
and you're like, bing,
Yeah.
there. You got one? Anybody else?
That's the one that I just had like an immediate reaction to is consistent. They're just very consistent with the work it takes to be successful in the field. So they're very consistent in They're not at all worried about. They don't have any other thought in their head other than just killing and being consistent with that. So like,
Patient.
they don't think about the work before they do it to talk themselves out of it. They're just consistently going on their plan. And if it ends up being a 2-hour wasted hike and thousands of feet of vertical, so be it.
Yeah.
And they're just consistent. They just keep going.
Patience, persistence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stick-to-itiveness.
Persistent is probably
Yeah.
a better word.
Yeah.
Consistent is what came to my mind. That just stick to going, just being in kill mode and going.
I'm with you.
I think you guys are spot on. I mean, even just to add to that, like, there is no waste in scout.
No.
Like, you crossing something off the list is
It's just as good as
yeah.
the other side.
So you go up and do some nasty hike, and you're not liking what you saw, but you're not going to waste time during the hunt on that.
No, you just keep going. Head down. Persistence, the better word.
Yeah.
Trial
I
and
think
error.
Good.
Yeah.
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
You don't just show up and try to figure it out. Have a plan.
That's Porter's. Have a plan. Who would have guessed?
B-Mills?
Brady?
Mine is refining the tools in your toolkit and making all of them lethally sharp. If you figure out you're weak in one area, that's the area you're probably going to not touch it very often at all. Like if you, let's say you, I don't know, don't have the lungs to run up a mountain, but you're really good at e-scouting, you're really good at shooting, but you don't have lungs, you probably should work on what you're weakest at and try to refine that to the point where it becomes sharp enough where you're lethal in all 3 areas. Or if you're all good in that, but you're not good at maps, well, maybe we should spend some time working more on maps, e-scouting a little bit, trying to hone some things in. Or maybe you don't know animal behavior, try to figure that out, so that way every single part of what you're going to go into a hunt is sharp. If you have all those things sharp, you're lethal.
Be well-rounded.
Be well-rounded in everything.
So maintain your strengths, work on your weaknesses.
That was poetic.
Love that.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Well, that's good. Thanks,
Now
guys.
give me them wallets.
Breaking your boots.
Breaking your boots.
Breaking your boots. There was a guide, a good friend of the brand here locally, the sheep guide, that was just in here, and he just bought some new boots, and he realized he went true to size, and he should have gone a half size up. But he's scouting, so he learned that on one hunt, and he's able to switch it out. But if he was on like a multi-day sheep hunt, that would have been rough. Torching him. Break in your boots.
Yep. So let's get out and do some scouting. Good luck to anybody that's listening. I get excited once it's like this time of year.
July 4th, man.
It's the
That's the day.
best.
This
It
time
is when
of
it
year.
turns. It turns.
July 4th, it turns.
It turns.
July
That year
4th,
when
it
you
gets
find
real.
a big buck and you're like, yep,
Yep.
Yeah.
go
I
time.
wonder if he's thinking about me like I'm thinking about him.
He is, I'm sure of it.
And the other takeaway, tell your girlfriend early in a relationship that you're a hunter.
Yeah.
And be honest with how many days
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell her it's over.
And happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day.
Yeah.
This is going out
Yeah,
on that
absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
America.
Have a happy 4th of July.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.